Arr. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Yes, wherever you are, make it TFR. Yes, I am talking rather loudly over the music today because that's how we roll on here. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready? Are you ready to set sail? Not for Speculation Island. No, 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 no. We're going to the Caribbean today, to Nassau, Kingston, and we're going to be talking about the real pirates of the Caribbean. Arr! Scott, there's going to be a lot of R's going on today, man. How you doing?
Arr, matey, I am ready to sail the seven seas and find some gold doubloons and some pirate treasure under Oak Island. Arr.
I should really have pimped out some Spanish galleon kind of graphics or something for tonight, right?
I was about to say, you know, instead of the normal the creepy hairy hands music, we should have had some like swashbuckling tunes playing in the background.
We could have had Joe Joseph to sing us in with sailor songs. And talking of sailors, we've got one with us tonight. We've got our very own pirate with us, Scotty. He's Nacy No Beard. Yes, he is. So Nacy No Beard. Arr, welcome, brother.
You know, you'd think that a pirate's favorite letter is the letter R, but really it's the C.
We've had a very, very, very apt question from the chat room. Kev, team on Freaky Friday, how dare you?
How dare you?
Yes, and how dare you even attempt to have a Pirates of the Caribbean special without he who shall not be named. You know, he would have been a perfect guest for a pirate special show, Scott, but he's like verboten. He's not allowed.
You know, before he became a humble chicken farmer, he was sailing the high seas, right? He was a swashbuckling
Coast Guard,
private-
my friend, Coast Guard.
I am what I am.
He was a pantaloon wielding Coast Guard. That's what he was, swashbuckling.
Yep.
I get more of an image of
the spinach because I eat me spinach.
He's Popeye the Coast Guard man. I just picture him in like Baywatch gear, dude. He talks about how he was in like the branch of the military, but really the poopster was kicking about with the little tight red shorts on, the budgie
Hazel
smugglers.
hats off.
Yeah, he was looking kind of cool.
Running across the beach.
Although I don't think he would have done many scenes with David Hasselhoff because, like well, who shall we say, Tom Cruise, very vertically challenged is our friend Das Poopster. In fact, the rumors have it he might even be smaller than me. Oh, exactly. Go figure, folks. Go figure. And that's a true story. That's a true story. But listen, this is our Pirates of the Caribbean special. The real Pirates of the Caribbean. Who was it that was flying or sailing? Not flying. Nobody was flying back then, or were they? Were they, ladies and gentlemen? No, they were sailing under the black flag. So we're going to get into all of this tonight. We're going to be telling stories of our voyages and adventures on the open seas. But before we go anywhere, I'm going to be heading over to the docks. It's the docks today. That's what the chat room is. All you fine sailors waiting to set sail for Speculation Island over in the TFR chat room. I'll be over there in just a moment. And Kevin, again, no shock to the audience out there that you were the one that actually done a bit of planning and preparation for tonight's show. Me and Scott usually turn up on a Friday. Still no idea what the topic's going to be, so we have to thank you for being the impetus of our sailing the high seas tonight, brother. He's gone. They got him. Did they get him, Scott? Did they just come and get him? Is that what happened?
Look, that's what happens when you're on a pirate ship sailing through the Bermuda Triangle. Sometimes you just disappear, man. I mean,
some of these stories, though, dude, some of the stories we're going to be getting into tonight, I mean, it might not sound like a typical Freaky Friday, but when you start to dig beneath the surface and then you get into some of the stories, some of the lore, some of the stuff that was going on, it's every bit Freaky Friday material. But there's cryptids, there's monsters, there's hidden treasure, there's adventures, there's characters like we've never spoke about before. I don't know, Scott. This is going to be a good one.
oh, definitely. I think there's plenty of woo to be wrapped into this whole pirate thing, right? I mean, this leads to all kinds of discussion, like ghost ships and just all kinds of crazy things like that. Pirate curses. In the Caribbean at the time, there was a lot of that voodoo action going on too. So, that was starting to take hold. Also, when I think of pirates, I think of there used to be a stronghold, like a pirate stronghold in the Caribbean. I think it was in Jamaica that had sunk into the ocean, right? And there's still a lot of a lot of people are wondering if there's a lot of treasure and stuff around that area. I think it was called Jamestown or something like that. But there was an earthquake and it had pretty much sunk the whole city. And people wonder, how much treasure may be located in that area. So I mean, there's a lot of mystery and intrigue and woo and a lot of the things that the pirates believed. I think Naysay is going to get into a lot of the superstition that they had and a lot of the kind of strange traditions and stuff that the pirates adhered to and all of that stuff. So it's definitely going to be a very, very interesting conversation, no doubt.
Yeah.
We are definitely going to be on the high seas today.
Yes, indeed. Indeed we will. PPP, ladies and gentlemen. Smoke 'em if you've got 'em. I am heading over now to our fine body of men and women waiting patiently in the TFR chat room. over at tfrlive.com/chat. Big shout out to all of you. Big shout out to everyone listening on the TFR website, TalkStream Live. Tonight we're going out on YouTube as well, so a big shout out to all of you over there. Wherever you are, hit share right now. Get more and more people over here. Let's crash this party. And of course, don't forget, coming up right after today's show, we're going to go over and we're going to raid the paranormal portal. Yes, indeed. So we need to warm you up first before we go anywhere. And to do that, we're going over to the chat room. So if your name ain't on the list, you ain't setting sails, okay? First up, we've got me and my my robotic lover, Sophia. Don't tell anyone. Shh. We've got Bam in there, Paradoxical Anomaly. Diver Dave. Now, there's a guy you would want on the ship. You never know when a diver's going to come in handy when you're out there sailing the seas. We've got B Kiwi. What happened to A Kiwi? We've got Nightshade, Onslow, Drone Free Zone. We've got Bill 13, Gentle Wolverine. A very gentle Wolverine you are. We've got the Waffle Buddy, all one and then some. We've got the Hacker, Lurens. Uh-oh, calm down. There's a Psycho Dave, 3, 2, 1 in the house. Yes. We've got Thor, Heathen, and we've also got the Uranus Explorer. Me hearties. So before we go over to Kevin, and again, we're going to have to give a special shout out to our good friend Renzo for putting together some slides for today's show that Kevin will be using to help go through his little presentation he's got for us. But Scott, you mentioned there the Jamaica's sunken city. Now, I'll let you get into this before we hand over to Kev, because it's an interesting story. This is the type of thing that makes this very much a Freaky Friday subject.
Yeah, indeed. So yes, I have some info pulled up here, and the city in question, I was trying to remember the name. It was called Port Royal, and it was in Jamaica, and there was a earthquake that had hit along the Caribbean fault line there back in the 1600s, late 1600s, and it had swallowed the city, and by all accounts, I mean, Port Royal was basically the pirate headquarters. I mean, it was pretty much a pirate stronghold. They ran everything there. It was basically like your pirate haven. But I'll kind of get into this because I always found the story of Port Royal pretty interesting. So it says, the earth opened and swallowed many people before my face, and the sea I saw came mounting in over the wall, upon which I concluded it impossible to escape. So that sounds a lot to me like a tsunami coming in. It says, Edmund Heath, survivor and eyewitness to the devastating 1692 earthquake, wrote these words in a letter from the safety of a ship moored in the city's harbor, overlooking the ruins of his city, Port Royal, once called the most wicked and sinful city in the world. Was famous the world over for its booze, the blackout-inducing kill devil rum, its pirates, and its women of the night, let's just say. Needless to say, when the city was nearly destroyed, there were some parties that saw it as a convenient solution to an ugly problem. Yeah, I'm sure many people weren't very distraught that was kind of wiped off the map. You know what I mean? I'm sure it was a thorn, all the piracy, going on, and all the pirates there were a thorn in a lot of people's sides, let's just say. It says the English and their pirate friends were relatively new to the area. Jamaica had been held by the Spanish since Columbus first declared it the fairest island eyes have beheld. In 1494, lacking gold or other obvious exploitable wealth, the Spanish held it but did not focus much energy there. It came under English power in 1655 after Cromwell sent English raiders to invade and capture the Spanish stronghold at Hispaniola. which is now Haiti and the Dominican Republic, in the center of Spanish trade in the Caribbean. Cromwell's men failed spectacularly at taking Hispaniola and turned to Jamaica as a second choice. A better than nothing option. Located on the southeast coast of Jamaica, the natural harbor at Port Royal became the center of English life in Jamaica. By the late 1600s, it had become one of the largest European cities in the New World, second only to Boston. Wow, that's a big place.
Yep.
I didn't realize it was that big. It had also become the infamous home of pirates, women of the night, and Englishmen on the make. Far from home, they made their livings off the slave trade, slave labor, and plantations, and the money that the pirates brought in from their looting forays against the Spanish. It may be seen as an indicator of the caliber of vice in Port Royal that in 1675, the notorious pirate Henry Morgan became the lieutenant governor. Wow, that's crazy. You have a pirate. He's the governor of the lieutenant governor of the city. It says, in fact, Morgan began to crack down on overt piracy as the grand era of privateering began to enter its waning phase. He died just 4 years before the earthquake struck and was buried in the Palisadios Cemetery. On the morning of June 7th, 1692, a massive earthquake estimated at a 7.5 magnitude hit the island. The city, largely built over sand, suffered instantly from liquefaction. Ooh, that ain't good.
No.
No, not good at all. With buildings, roads, and citizens sucked into the ground. Geysers erupted from the earth, buildings collapsed, and finally, the city was hit by tsunami waves, dragging what had not been destroyed out to sea. In the end, some 33 acres of the city disappeared.
33, 33
acres of the city
yes.
disappeared underwater. 4 of the 5 forts were destroyed or submerged, and 2,000 people lost their lives. The cemetery where Captain Morgan was buried slipped into the sea, its bodies floating up to mix with the freshly dead. Ooh. Even before the earth stopped shaking, locals reported that the looting began. Well, of course, the looting began. You think a town full of pirates and people who make their living off of raiding and looting, we're going to just, let that opportunity slip by? It says, one writing, immediately upon the cessation of the extremity of the earthquake, your heart would abhor to hear of the depredations, robberies, and violence that were in an instant committed upon the place by the vilest and basest of people. No man could call anything his own, for that they were the strongest and most wicked, seized what they pleased. Ooh, I mean, you want to talk about pure chaos and probably anarchy taking place? That probably was pretty crazy. It says, as news spread of the destruction of Port Royal, it was picked up as a cautionary tale and a sure sign of divine retribution for the lewd behavior of the pirates and ladies of the night, the pretensions and wealth of the gentry of the town, or the sins of slavery, depending on the city and the audience. But at any rate, the earthquake did not end Port Royal's wicked ways or its relationship with vice. Oh,
Cupcake Paper donated $1.99 through Super Chat. Some pirates gold for Kev.
Very nice. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold the super chats and we'll play them on the breaks, so that when Scott or Kev or if I'm reading something out, it doesn't quite interrupt over the top, and then we'd have to keep stopping and starting. But thank you so much, Cupcake, and anyone who does super chat, don't worry, it will come up during the breaks and we'll get into them. We'll have a laugh. We've got a little dancing pirate happening now as well up in the top of the screen, just to keep everyone entertained when when I'm boring people. But Scott, this place here, loving the story, and we're about to get to one of the characters. It's fascinated me. Always fascinated me when it came to pirates. But I'll let you continue because he's about to enter the story soon.
Yes. So it says, but at any rate, the earthquake did not end Port Royal's wicked ways, nor its relationship with vice or with pirates who continued to stop by for another 50 years while they preyed on Spanish ships. In fact, in 1720, John Calico Jack Rackham was he was strung up, let's just say, at Gallows Point in Port Royal by order of pirate hunter and former privateer Woodes Rogers.
Or as I prefer to call him, he was the captain of the douche canoe. The original captain of the douche canoe was Woodes Rogers. I mean, any English elitist with the name of Woodes Rogers. Yeah, I mean, come on, man. He sounds like the kind of guy you would like to bitch slap for fun, right?
Woodes Rogers. It's like one of those guys that has two last names, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although I am reliably told that his friends called him Woody. Make of that what you will. Make of that what you will, folks. It is what it is, you know.
Somebody poisoned the water well. Isn't that Woody from Toy Story? Yeah. Best
or
known
Woody
for his
Jolly Roger.
Right. Yeah. Best known for his rescue. I guess Woodes Rogers was best known for his rescue of the castaway Alexander Selkirk, the inspiration for Robinson Crusoe.
Oh, who knew? Who knew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since then, the city has been racked by fire, earthquake, and hurricane several times. The English finally decided to close its naval station at Port Royal, effectively closing it for business, and most residents left. In 1951, what was left of Port Royal was hit by Hurricane Charlie, destroying more property and leaving only a few of the original buildings standing. Today, most of the remains of the 17th century city lie under up to 40 feet of water.
Now stop there. Stop there, Scott.
Yeah.
Right? Stop, okay? Nacy, we need to get you in here as well, right? So we're talking about an underwater city, right? Not just any type of city, but the type of place where pirates made a stronghold. And we also heard how liquefaction happened almost instantly, right? So are we saying that we think there's a pretty good chance if we can get 40 feet under, and then under the sediment where all that booty would have fallen to? Is this like one of the most prime treasure hunting real estates in the world? Or are we onto something, they say? Should we be setting sail?
Well, you definitely can notice that there are TV shows now that are specifically raising up the curiosity. And as a child myself, I remember the idea of being a pirate because that's what they taught us in the TVs. But since the oceans have been sailed from ancient times, you know, they've been sailing. And if they're sailing, they're trying to get something. And I think the original Greek word was jaron, or payron is where we come up with pirate, because one man's pirate is another country's pirateer or privateer.
Yeah, the privateers, the original government-sanctioned mercenaries, the Scotty. Forget black sails. They're like the black waters of the day, right?
Well, you know, it makes you wonder where they got where Prince got that name, Blackwater. Right? I mean, maybe it goes back to, it's a kind of an homage, right, to the privateering days when essentially you had sanctioned piracy, mercenary groups, right, paid by governments or interests, you know, and then they would just do what they do for the highest dollar, you know. But you know, going back to this, I think we get a little bit of a little bit of an answer on our treasure thing here. So it says up until the 1900s, visitors reported on the city still visible below the waves and the eerie sensation of floating over rooftops. Since the 50s, divers have been exploring and cataloging the submerged city. And in 1969, Edwin Link discovered the most famous artifact, a pocket watch dated to 1686, stopped at exactly 1143.
Come on, all you geometric gymnastics out there. Look at the numbers that are in this article. We've had 33 acres, 40 feet, 1900s, 1950s, 1143. Damn, it's feeling like a game of bingo, Scott.
That's it's pretty interesting. That is interesting though, because I mean that would be what the exact time in which the earthquake struck, right? 1143, and that watch plummeted into the water and stopped. It says more recently, the Nautical Archaeology Program at Texas A&M University and the Jamaican National Heritage Trust conducted underwater archaeological examinations. Ending in 1990, their explorations have brought to light artifacts of 17th century life rarely seen. Because of the nature of the disaster, which left many buildings intact and more or less undisturbed, it has been compared to Pompeii for its archaeological wonders and was designated a National Heritage Site in 1999. Special access from the government is required to dive in restricted Port Royal Ruins area, but many of the items recovered over the years can be seen at museums of history and ethnography at the Institute of Jamaica in Kingston. So it looks like you just can't just willy-nilly go in there and dive and try to look for treasure. It's kind of one of these protected heritage zones, but you also have to wonder, Kev, I mean, when they designate these sites or whatever, I always look at it in general as the government kind of already claiming stake to all of that may be located down there, because they don't want anybody else getting a piece of the pie. So they're like, oh, natural heritage site. We're protecting it, you know. And
just on the off chance a fortune has fallen off a Spanish galleon back in the day, you know.
That's what I'm saying, you know. And so it seemed a lot of people were happy that the place fell into the ocean back into the 1700s, but now it doesn't seem like the governments or whatever have a problem reaping the rewards that may have fell down in there. So very interesting. And it also just shows how fast, you know, when we talk about these rapid, I guess you could say, cataclysmic events, how fast one of these events can occur and you end up having something essentially frozen in time, right? Because a lot of these buildings still intact, they sunk into the sand and were preserved and just stuck in that like a time capsule, you know, because of the liquefaction. It makes you wonder about like a lot of these animals that they find, right?
It sure does. It sure does. We'll be back after the break, ladies and gentlemen. We are hoisting the original false flags. Yes, indeed. We'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere on our Pirates of the Caribbean special. Arr!
Shiver me timbers.
You really have. You have got this pirate thing down to a T, Mr. Nafe. Now, I don't know what you're scraping at there. It's a really noisy thing you're scraping, though. Like, as in, really noisy. So I'll leave you to scrape that for a moment. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to head back in over to all of you people in YouTube land. Wow. I need to catch up with you, a few of these super chats. And I hope people understand. This is when Scott's reading or Kev's reading, and I've had it myself, you know. Sometimes it knocks you off, and then you have to try and get back in the zone. But this way, we can kind of put them all together, we can collate them and do them in a oneer. So I think this works better. So we'll go back to the beginning. We've got Cupcake. Right, this is where I wait, because if I press it again, Scott. Yeah, see? Yeah, here we go. It should play. There we go.
Cupcake Paper donated $1.99 through Super Chat. Some Pirates Gold for Kev.
There we go. We've got some hairy hand music in the background.
Thor_Heathen donated $5 through Super Chat. Sending some Scottish woody.
Thor looks like a he looks like he could be a pirate. I was going to say a Viking. They were like the original pirates, dude.
Yeah, they were.
Big time.
Leslie Dickey donated $5 through Super Chat. Having fun. Bring on the woo and laughs. Heart.
You were having fun when you called into Mary yesterday as well, Leslie. That was a great call and great show. And last but not least, we have got the amazing Jules.
Jules donated $5 through Super Chat. For the poor fellas on the poop deck and the dude up on the crowd nest.
Where would you rather have been, boys? Up in the crow's nest, having a look out for the sails. I was reading today, you know, that was one of the things that sometimes you would get some extra booty for. If you were the guy that spotted the sails, you know, over the horizon, you know how that curvature of the earth works and things. You know, but if you were the first to see the top of the sail emerging, because that's the way it works out there, you know, you would get some extra pennies. Or would you rather be down on the cannons, man? Giving it large.
When I was in the Navy, I volunteered to be the antenna PO. And so I had to climb up on the yardarms and go up there and repair the antennas. And it's pretty exciting, except when you're on what they call high seas, when you're getting like some 10 to 15 foot pitch and rolls, and you're out there on the yardarm, and all of a sudden it looks like you're turning to the side and heading down towards the water, and then at the last minute the ship rightens up.
Yeah, not for me, dude. Not for me, man. See, I feel sick even thinking about that, Scott.
Yeah, I would think being up like in the crow's nest, you know, like up in that very top.
Here we go.
That top point. That well, I'll talk about.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Ah, well.
Is America bankrupt?
We'll wait for a little second, then we'll go back. Yes, indeed. It would appear that my clock is still slightly off. Yes, this broken clock isn't even right once a day. I'm wrong all day. Every day. Ah! That clown freaks me out. You know, I've got about 10 minutes of that clown just clowning around like that. I'd rather sit and watch the maggots. So I would. Ooh. And I don't know what this character's all about either. He's a strange one. Here we go. Here we go. There we go. We're back. We're live on this, our very, very special broadcast today. Because I think, in my mind anyway, I'll get Scott to confirm it. But I think this is the first time we've done like a pirate special, Scotty boy. It must be, right?
I think so. I mean, we spoke about them. You know, they've come up in conversations, but we've never had a full on pirate themed Freaky Friday. You know, and I think, you know, these pirates play a major role in a lot of things that were going on back then. I mean, the sailing the seas, that was your main mode of was it intercontinental travel back then. So there was a lot of activity going on around these pirates and what they were doing. And you know, they weren't just these ragtag random groups of individuals. They were, you know, a lot of the times these pirates were extremely organized and formed alliances with nations, and they posed a real, you know, threat out there that you really had to worry about these dudes and decide if you were gonna be friendly with them or if you were gonna end up being another victim, you know. And as we see, like with the privateering thing, a lot of these nations, you know, especially the British, right? They they were like, okay, well, if you can't beat them, then maybe we should pay them, right? And that's where you got the privateers from. They were ex-pirates that kind of became mercenaries, and their services went out to the highest bidder. And if these guys could wreak havoc on the Spanish, right, raid their ships and plunder them, that was just a bonus for the British, right? So they
even those guys, they got greedy, right? Even they got greedy, because in the end of the day, most of the privateers, they ended up just going like full pirate, because they wanted to cut out the middleman. You don't want to be paying off no British Empire. What are you talking about?
Exactly. And if somebody showed up with a higher, like, hey, the British might be paying you this, but I'll pay you that. And next thing you know, these guys are over here raiding British ships because, hey, the booty's higher, man. So,
because they've got better rum on offer. They love their rum. Yes, indeed.
Well, if we start hitting those slides, we can start it kind of from the beginning.
Okay, we're on them, man.
So we can, and I want to say a special thank you for Renzo. She's been a delight helping to produce these slides. So thank you, Renzo. I hope she's awake listening to the show. She might be tired working on these slides a little bit last night. So basically, the first image, pirate fleet, we have these imagines of different ideas of what we have a concept of pirates being. Mainly, we're going to be sharing more about the pirates of the Atlantic, since I thought was fitting, because here we are in North America, and there's Kev over there in the United Kingdom, where a lot of this kind of initiated and started with. So we have all these ancient sailing vessels that are going around the world, or not, if you fell off the edge, that you would be condemned to go to the underworlds. But then the circumstances that happen, there's a natural, if you jump ahead to the transatlantic current, where you see that if you were on a ship and if you just got caught up in one of these streams or one of these currents, you'd find yourself from Europe over to North America, and prevalently South America. And this is where it kind of started, but we've all been conditioned. You can jump ahead to all those movies. I was trying to remember, I think it was called The Swashbuckler. I meant to look it up. Errol Flynn, an old black and white movie that I remember as a child, very young, that it was on I think it was my dad who got a little excited watching it when I was a kid. And then, of course, that mouse, that Mickey, Steamboat Willie, he gave us Captain Hook, Peter Pan, and The Pirate's Life for me. Hi diddly do.
Black Sails, dude. I've just finished gorging the 4 seasons of Black Sails. It's one of the best TV series that I've watched in a good few years, dude. That's what really reignited my kind of interest in all this stuff. But I mean, I'd gone years. I was a child, I think, last time I looked at pirates and got excited about this stuff. But as I was watching that, I could see how it was lining up with historical figures. Now, obviously, there was a fictional kind of storyline, a narrative to make it entertaining as well. But it was good to see how they kind of interspersed it with characters like Blackbeard, Edward Teach. We had Long John Silver as well, all that kind of thing. So that was kind of cool. I don't know.
It did weave it really good. I enjoyed it. I listened to it because I know the history not supremely well, but I knew it well enough that I could listen to it because it didn't have audio description to it. But it was very well enjoyed. Did you ever check out that one, Crossbones?
No, I did not know.
I think it had Malcolm. Oh, what's his? No, I can't think of his name. Gary Oldman, I think, was in it, and that Malkovich, I think his name was also in it. But it kind of went over that same ideology, and it used actual historical facts and weaved in with the storyline. So, yeah.
Now, of course, Johnny Depp. I mean, he's the most famous pirate of them all, right?
Well, today, definitely today, and I gotta say, there is a man crush that I've always enjoyed. Johnny Depp. He definitely did the Pirates of the Caribbean fairly well. But, of course, when we talk about the pirates, one of the first things that we think about are the flags. And this was the whole mythos of the pirates, when you would be cruising on your merchant ship trying to bring supplies this way and that way. And here you would see another ship coming up on the horizon, and it would put up colors or flags to give you identification. And you'd be, oh, cool, they're friends, not foes. And then once the ship got so close that you didn't have the time to prepare for the combat, here they would raise the black flag. And then eventually it was the Jolly Roger or the Skull and Bones. But the one thing that I found most interesting is that they had the red flag. And it was one thing for you to see that black flag or the Jolly Roger, the Skull and Bones, but when you saw that red flag, that was a sign saying, we will take no prisoners and no one shall be living at the end of this.
Well, I
experience.
think our boat, I was thinking about this today, Scotty. We're going to have, I was going to go for the skull and crossbones, but I was thinking probably more apt would be the Wookiee and traffic cones.
Like two traffic cones kind of crossed in a Wookiee head.
And a really seductive kind of pose for people that find traffic cones seductive. We'll kind of have them crossed over and that. And, that'll really baffle our potential prey, man.
Yeah, they're not gonna understand what the flag represents, and they're gonna be confused. It's gonna be this like fog of war situation where they don't know what's going on before we strike. I like it.
It could be like the back end of a truck that has all the traffic cones, and the Wookiee is wearing one of those fluorescent vests. And he's gradually grabbing.
Yeah, if it was in Scotland, everyone has to wear one of those. It's like we all need to be reminded of health and safety everywhere. It's like part of our national dress. It lies next to the kilt, Kevin. It does. Yeah.
So if you jump ahead again after the flags, what are the images there?
Well, we've got a pirate. We've got flags again. We've got the pirate. We've got Long John Silver stood in his chest. We've got a drawing of a boat. We've got a compass.
Got eye patches and
we've got
that.
rum.
One thing that's really interesting is, people think of the whole eye patch, and yes, being on the ocean and sailing these ships, there was the potential of you losing an eye. More likely in the event if you lost an eye, you were going to die because of infection. But the main reason why they would wear an eye patch is because going from top deck to below deck, it is so dark that you want to have one eye that's already prepared to see, to acquiesce into the darkness.
I also think it's to do with the amount of rum that they drink, so that they don't have to really get confused at having two eyes, and they know just to go for the one, Arr!
Yeah. Hey, it also solves that pesky double vision problem, when too much rum has been consumed.
There's a lot to be said for the eye patch. It's a misunderstood a weapon, really, Kevin.
You also got to wonder, wearing that eye patch, and you're kind of like strengthening one eye, you know, does that help your vision when you're looking through a telescope, you know, out at the horizon? I mean, there could have been a lot of like alternate, you know, uses for the eye patch. I mean, like Nasei said, I mean, the main use for it, and I've known this too for a while, was, you know, going below deck and you already have an eye that's been in the dark, you know, prepared to be able to see when you're down there. So yeah, the eye patch, there's much more to it than just, oh, you know, I got poked in the eye with a piece of wood, and so now I gotta, you know, wear an eye patch, or I, you know, lost it boarding a ship.
And
you know?
let's admit it, it looked pretty cool. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It made you stand out from most other pirates. You looked like you had a bit of a story to tell. You know? Being an interesting looking character in pirate times would have been very advantageous. Boys.
I was about to say, you know, that there was also an element of showmanship and swagger, and, you know,
dude,
dressing it
Blackbeard
up.
Used to set fire to his beard before he would go into a fight. This dude had it all going on, you know.
And I would be able to wear 2 eye patches.
Now you see, that would confuse the Spanish. They would underestimate you, Kevin. They would think, oh, look at this man, we'll be able to take him out. But Kevin would be way ahead of the game, folks. So yes, we've got the rum on here. We've got, I'm very reluctant to scroll on from this slide because Keira Knightley's in this slide, and we could look at that for the next 2.5 hours, and I wouldn't be complaining. I'm just saying.
Well,
That's
you
what
know,
it is.
the rum definitely was an advantage on a couple levels. Myself, I don't partake in alcohol, but I have no challenge with anybody that likes the urine of the devil. But hey, to each his. Oh, I'm sorry. But rum, you know, you would try to transport water in barrels, which usually didn't work very well. And so they started fermenting and creating grog or rum. And then they would add lemon to it because the alcohol would last these long voyages. It became so relevant that even a lot of the earlier navies would actually give, I think it was 6 shots of rum was given a day. And I don't recall how well I handled rum. It wasn't one of my favorites. But, you know, if you think of 6 shots a day, and especially the quality of alcohol it probably had back then, you probably were pretty jolly with your Roger out there.
That's what I was kind of, you sent a playlist through today, and it was talking about some of the ships had like onboard entertainment. They had like pubs and a mad theater where they would go to get entertained. And I tell you what, like it could be like more than the captain's life's worth if he doesn't have like booze and entertainment for these rascals that he's got on board, you know.
Yeah, you've got to keep your crew happy, right? And, you know, even if it means keeping them kind of boozed up, you know, you don't want morale or anything to drop on the ship. And we're talking about ocean voyages that lasted months. You know, so I mean, we're talking about a prolonged duration of time in which you have a bunch of individuals cramped up with each other, living in close quarters, dealing with.
We're gonna go there. We are going to go there.
You know, dealing with each other on a daily basis, and I'm sure that rum, you know, provided at least a little bit of stress relief and an outlet for these guys. So no, I get what you're saying, Kev. I mean, that could be a fatal mistake for the captain if there's not enough rum on the ship, and next thing you know, there be a little bit of mutiny on board.
Well, who did you have? You had the captain, you had like the first mate. He like kept them all in line, didn't he? He was like the foreman. You didn't mess with him.
The quartermaster.
Yeah, that was the dude. Yeah, that's the one, man. He was like the boss, the gaffer, right?
Well, and the rum would help prevent the scurvy, but it didn't do a thing for the syphilis. But if we jump forward to some of the a couple of the next most these next two gentlemen.
Now here we go. This is an interesting character. You could do a whole week of shows on Sir Francis Drake. Oh my.
Absolutely. Francis Drake out of the United Kingdom, Queen Elizabeth. He was kind of an old curmudgeonly guy, had a thing for the Queen, couldn't quite woo her enough, but he did his duty. I said it. And he made money. He was considered a privateer. He was part of the Navy for a time, but then became a privateer, and then had such a hatred for the Spanish. Spain was going through all of this finding of gold. They got lucky. They were able to conquer a group of people, and they started getting all of this gold. And then they started becoming the focus of France and England. And then Francis Drake was helping the Queen out, making money. And it was kind of one of those things where it built the reputations of these captains because they were able to make so much money. These adventures they would go on, and the excitement that it brought. Sir Francis Drake, he had in one escapade, he got so much wealth that he paid for an entire year of the Queen Elizabeth's debt. And so she was super happy to the point of where he was knighted. Spain was just, they were angry as hell, but they're having challenges of their own because of their immediate wealth and gaining of it, plus with France, so it was almost a powder keg ready to go. And then we have the next pirate who was just a decade or so after Sir Francis Drake. And this guy was like the Rico Suave of the privateers.
Sir Walter Raleigh. Yes, indeed.
Yes, he definitely got to woo the Queen.
It's rumored that he absolutely begged to be the groom of the stool. And if it wasn't, it's a rumor that we're starting right now today. Yeah.
Well, he definitely was getting plenty of pirate booty. And
he looks really flamboyant in his blue and yellow pantaloons and purple leggings and his bright ginger hair. What an absolute conglomeration. Who put that together, man?
I would have wore the pantaloons, though.
Oh, absolutely. He actually looks like a really, really early version of the Swiss Guard.
I was about to say, we make fun of the pantaloons, but we know the Swiss Guard are those elite crack troops, man.
Maybe he was about to infiltrate the Vatican on that day, ladies and gents. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And one thing I did really quickly meant to touch on, we cannot talk about pirates without bringing up the Vikings. The Vikings were more or less the same as pirates, but they were just the Vikings.
Dude, come on,
did what they did.
No, come on. You can't just say they were just the Vikings. They were like the original badass mofos out there, man.
Hey, they were the OG pirates. They were the at least as far as
it's like you say, there's nothing new under the sun, right? These privateers and pirates thought they were the dog's kahunas, but in reality, they were doing nothing that the pirates hadn't, the Vikings hadn't done yonks before them, right?
Exactly.
Well, even the Phoenicians and even even in Greece, and you look at, what these people of the seas, there was basically a very own separate law when it came to the oceans and the seas.
Yeah, piracy existed in some form or fashion ever since man had sailed the seas, right? Because I mean, even to this day, right? We consider it international waters, kind of like anything goes out there, right? And so, once you're out there, it's kind of like fair game, and you just have to kind of play by this loose set of rules that everybody has kind of agreed to on, but do you really follow it? Or it's still that way today, right? I mean, they still deal with piracy off the coast of Somalia. You got these guys trying to raid tankers with RPGs and stuff, and it still goes on today. That's the crazy thing. People think, oh, pirates, that was just a thing that existed back in the swashbuckling days, and now we're modern and all that stuff.
Some of these groups have been paid a very, very wealthy sum indeed back in the day. And when I say back in the day, I'm talking about maybe 5-10 years ago, when insurance companies would just keep out the news and like pay them the value of the boat and the goods, and you'd never hear about it. And that's why they continued to go out there and pirate ships, folks. They got rich off it, and then the money got pulled away. And I was reading stuff today about these actual companies that actually act as middlemen between the pirates and the families of hostages, because the bottom fell out of the piracy market and insurance companies stopped paying up. Well, these people were left with hostages, right? And in the end, because they've got hostages, they're having to use the locals to get food, and all these locals are demanding, look, we just want any money, just anything to get repaid for 5 years of keeping these people. It's crazy. It still goes on.
I don't like talking too bad about the banksters, but I'll just mention the Lords of London. Check that out and look at that history there. And it's, you wonder where these privateers got their money, and then that's all you do is just follow the power of the purse by a friend of ours. Yeah.
No, you follow the money, you see who's funding what, and if it works towards an agenda, then they're going to go for it, right? Just like I said, all these privateers and everything, they're paid by the crown because it was putting a hurt on the Spanish, so it also makes you wonder, man. Okay, so we have this piracy that's going on in the oceans, right? In the future, are we going to see space piracy? Because space is going to be looked at as kind of the new frontier, right? The new ocean, if you will. And I've watched a lot of interesting kind of sci-fi anime kind of stuff where space piracy ends up becoming an issue as well. But you can see I think you could probably see the same sort of thing happening, right? You're drifting along in space, and all of a sudden that spacecraft behind you has the Jolly Roger, Kev.
We're almost
what do you
there.
do?
Set sails and may the wind blow you back after the break.
There we go. Arr.
Arr.
Every segment finishes with an R today. It just has to. It just has to. I insist. So listen,
Today's
folks.
show brought to you by the letter R.
It's like Sesame Street. It's like R. Yeah, so listen, folks, don't forget, coming up right after today's show, we have got Brent Thomas, and what we're going to do here is after Freaky Friday, we're all going to jump from this channel over to his. We're going to freak him out. We're going to absolutely double the numbers over on his stream, and we'll raid the heck out of him. Oh, I don't know. Now, Kevin, what on earth's name is that squeaking noise that keeps happening, man? It's like nails down a blackboard. It's like, what is it, dude?
On my end?
Yeah, it's like something scraping on something. You hear it, Scott?
It sounds like somebody dragging a card or something across.
It's like a cable or something. I don't know what it is, dude.
I have no idea. I'm just sitting here by the dock of the
bay. So when we come back, we'll get back into the slides here. But yes, we'll head on over and we will raid. We will raid Brent. There's that noise again. See, there it was there.
You know what it is?
Oh,
It is
horrible.
my mic.
Is
It is my mic rubbing against my braids.
Yes, that'll do it. That'll do it. That'll do it.
There we go.
Yep.
And so I got this situation underhand. Sorry.
Now I can picture Kevin sitting in the house with braids wrapped around his nose or something to keep it out the way, and now I feel terrible, man. See, dang, dude.
I almost got the rig set up, and if all goes well, next Friday I'll be in front of the big boy
The
computer.
D-Wave. Oh man, he's gonna fire up Jordy's machine that he dropped off at Nace's house. Yep.
The flux capacitor just got put in place.
Yep. The powers that shouldn't be wave. Yep. That's it, man. Yeah, definite.
You know, after we get through Nace's presentation here, I might see if I can dig up some information on like pirate curses or
Nice, dude. There's a heap of them, dude. Heap of them.
ghostly ghost ships.
I still think
pirates.
there's a good chance that Oak Island we're looking at. I think lots of stuff's happened at Oak Island over the centuries, and pirates is one episode.
I was about to say, I think there's a lot of chapters that have occurred on Oak Island, and there's a definite pirate chapter that has taken place there. So you know, there's many
You know
levels.
how you guys tease me. I have them broken down in sections 1 through 6.
Nice.
For the show.
Nice. You know
And
what,
so-
dude? I am absolutely, that noise was honestly, see, like one of those noises that make your whole body go, oh, that's what it was getting like there, man. See, not hearing it for 2 minutes now, it's like, wow, relief. Damn, dude.
It wasn't bothering me that bad, but I could tell it was hitting. It was hitting something in Kev's.
It was like,
hitting something.
You should have been on the phone the one time when Jimmy called me up, and I was right in the middle of eating crackers and hummus.
Oh, nice. That must have been good.
And Jimmy wasn't happy about that.
Here we go, boys.
And I'm
Here
like,
we go.
call
Here
me
we
back
go.
then, dude.
Here
I
we go,
mean-
lads. Here we go. Bada bing, bada boom. And just like that, we were back for hour number 2. Wow, what a voyage this is turning out to be. Our real Pirates of the Caribbean. Arr! Black flags, pirates, privateers, mutinies, they say. Arr! Isn't that right, Kevin? Yes.
Should we jump back at the slides there?
We shall, my brother. It's like, I tell you, man, I feel like a new man now that screeching and scratching is gone. Oh boy, Nace, I could give you a big hug right now. I really could. Here we go.
Well, I was being keyhauled.
Now this
Here I
says
was keyhauling you.
this says we're at the Thretvum Orbis Terravum Novus Orbis and maps, Kevin.
Well, of course, how did we get there, or how did we get here in North America, South America? You know, there's speculations on how it occurred. There was a bunch of days and nights at the temple every now and then that could have definitely been involved one way or another. But then if you jump forward, it has to do with commerce, with merchants. If you think here we have North and South America, an untapped world. And so, of course, they were very excited.
Nace, I have to stop you, man. I'm going to provide that audio description for what I'm having to persevere through right now. Scott Lopez has pimped himself out to look like a one-eyed pirate, dude, and I'm loving his parrot. Arr.
Arr.
I like it, dude. I like
They
it.
say.
He got the Polly Roger there on
Yeah.
his shoulder now.
Yeah. He's looking good, man. He's looking good. He is literally the captain of the douche canoe. Okay, Scott, what can I say, man? It's the name of our boat, dude. It's the name of our boat. What can I say?
Yes, we set sail for Speculation Island. Arr.
Come on then, Nacy. Back to this commerce, man. Commerce. I like that, Scott.
So they're wanting to open up the trade and set up some bases over here in the Americas, and then continue on.
There we go.
Is that
Famous pirates, we've got Blackbeard, Francis Lunme, or Lolone, sorry. We've got Calico Jack. Yeah, that's the one. He's the boy. Henry Morgan. We've also got Anne Bonnet and Mary Reed. You see, contrary to what the trolls say, we're very diverse on here. We're very all about equality, and we will highlight both the men and women that were famous back in the day, won't we, Kev?
Oh yeah, we're not opposed to any type of gender whatsoever wanting to be a swashbuckler.
Pirates is for everyone. Don't be judgy. You know?
Well, you can imagine the want of being involved with the pirates, because those that wanted to go to the seas, they usually had to join the Navy or the military, and it was so rigid that it was a breath of fresh air, because even though the pirates were ruthless, they were extremely democratic, that they would vote on what they were going to do. All of the booty that was found was shared and distributed equally. Even Blackbeard was known to have insurance that if you were injured while in his services, or you got like a hook, you lost your hand, or if you lost a leg and you got a peg leg, it literally was so expensive. It was more than an arm and a leg to get those appendages. Sorry, that was a poor one. But Blackbeard, he would give you some money to get that hook made, to get that peg leg going. And like you were saying earlier, Kev, some of these ships had theaters on them. They had full bands or mini orchestras, so the pirate's life plus the rum plus the pillaging, unfortunately, there were some really bad eggs that did some really heinous things.
Yeah, I mean, and like I was gonna say, I mean, we all have this this kind of notion, beat into our head of the kind of the stereotypical the stereotypical thought of what a pirate is, right? Like look at me right now. I mean, this is the stereotypical look of what we think a pirate. Swashbuckling, a scoundrel, and all of that. But like Nacy said, they ran a very democratic process, and they kind of had their own code, if you will, right? The pirate code, and their own kind of rule of law, and that's why they were able to set up their own city, right? Port Royal. They essentially ran their own government. They decided on issues and all of that. So there was a lot of, I guess you could say, sophistication to the way they operated, and it wasn't all just criminality and debauchery. I guess it comes with the territory, right? I mean, if you're a pirate, then by nature you're engaging in activities that are deemed unlawful, but I wouldn't say that every single one of these guys or gals that were, considered pirates were evil, right? Or had ill intentions at heart. I'm sure a lot of these guys didn't want to hurt the people that maybe they're like, look, we're just here for the goods. We don't want to hurt you, right? While you had others that were like, take no prisoners and, dispatched of everybody. There were probably different levels, just like anything else. You have some people that have some compassion and morality while others
that
don't.
French one, that Lolonais, he was like, he's the one you're on about. He had like compassion for him was like non-existent. He would go full barbarian mode. Yeah, scorched her big time. But I was going to bring up this quickly, just to back up what you were going to say, Scott, about how organized they were, right? And then, in a way, I suppose we should have some admiration for them because they were trying to give the people that ruled the planet back in the day the middle finger. They were trying to break away, start something different, break that yoke, that they were all under. And nothing really sums up that more than the Republic of Pirates, Nassau. Yes, it says here the Republic of Pirates was a base or stronghold of a loose confederacy run by privateers turned pirates in Nassau on New Providence Island in the Bahamas for about 11 years from 1706 until 1718. Although not a state or a republic in a formal sense, because the same elites that they were trying to break away from didn't recognize them. Go figure. Yeah, it was governed by its own formal code of conduct. Now, the activities of the pirates caused havoc with trade and shipping in the West Indies until Governor, there he is again, Big Woody Rogers, reached Nassau in 1718 and restored British control.
So this Woods Rogers guy, he was like the pirate buster, wasn't he? He was looking around for pirate strongholds and then coming in and cracking down and making sure that the British had complete control over and that they were adhering to British law. He sounded like a real party pooper, man.
He came from he was like a generational sailor, dude. He comes from an experienced seafaring family. Grew up in Poole. Hey, Poole, I passed my driving test there. Totally irrelevant fact. Started an apprenticeship to a Bristol sea captain. His father held shares in many ships, but passed when Rogers was in his mid-20s, leaving Rogers in control of the family shipping business. Now, at the start of 1700s, that would have left you pretty well placed in society, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you. Yep, he was approached by Captain William Dampier. And with a name like that, he was never going to win any fame or fortune. Nobody's ever heard of William Dampier, who sought support for a privateer voyage against the Spanish, with whom the British were at war. So yes, this is the guy that went and put the boot down and took the old Union Jack back over to Nassau. There you go.
That was one of the challenges that when the wars ended, there were all of these sailors that were kind of out of a job. And so it's like, what do we do?
Yep.
Well, all of these captains got their own ships, and they found out that it was more lucrative for them to just go around and heist all of the wares, because now in America we have these colonies occurring. But if we jump forward on that next slide, or should we talk about those women pirates real quick, or did you want to go on more about?
Well, what about Blackbeard? Because he's pretty famous as well, dude. What can you tell us about Blackbeard?
Well, as you were talking about the Republic of Pirates, he was considered the
he was like the governor,
chancellor.
Wasn't he? Yeah, he was like the head dude, wasn't
he? Yeah, and they actually had I think in the hundreds of a fleet. when it came down to ships. Blackbeard, you were talking earlier, he used to weave hemp twine into his beard, and he would light it, and so it would give a smoke. So it looked like he had smoke coming from his beard and from his
That's
hat.
what I'm talking about. That's proper order, you know?
Yeah, that's some wild stuff right there. You want to talk about a psychological intimidation factor? You see some wild guy with a smoky beard, running at you.
It's like an unwritten rule. I mean, you shouldn't need to be told you don't go fighting with a man that's just set his beard on fire. It's logic, right? It's common sense. You don't fight with that guy. He's mad.
Well, this is where it goes with, how much of it is embellishment and how much is it truth. I was reading about one captain, what he did, because he had such a loathing for the Spaniards, that they did this thing where they made all of the pirates would grab little blunt and sharp objects, and they would circle around the main mast. And then they would have an individual, it was almost kind of like musical chairs, where an individual had to run around the mast while the music was playing, and all of the pirates would reach out and cut him and stab him. And if he was too slow, then it would be deeper and worse, the cut. And he would run the whole ship through this if they put up any kind of resistance. So it definitely was that psychological, that once the flag went up, then it was the immediate surrender.
Yep.
Or some people would even just jump ship and say, I'm not going to get caught.
I was just about to say, you're right. Like the embellishment, and then like the mystique that they would, that I'm sure that they would weave around themselves, like to form a sort of, what would you call it? A reputation, if you will, through hearsay and all of these kind of stories that may have been passed around and, like you said, embellished. And then by the time a lot of these people are dealing with the actual person in the flesh, right? When they actually see the ship coming up on them, all of those stories and all of the reputation has already played a huge psychological effect in whoever's being boarded, right, or raided. And like you said, it's almost like they could board the ship without even having to fire a shot or be physical in any way whatsoever, because just through their reputation, they've already essentially terrified these people into just giving up without a fight. So in a way, I mean, that they use that to their advantage. I'm sure that they would do all they can to spread that they loved people spreading rumors about them, doing this and doing that, and building up their this kind of character, right, building it up so they had that reputation. So no, I agree. I mean, it makes you wonder, with a lot of these stories and a lot of the things they did, was it something they actually did, or was it just something that has been embellished and that they pushed as kind of their reputation in order to scare people? Yeah, it makes you wonder. Maybe it's a little bit of both,
And isn't it cool that the pirates, they had equal rights? Because we have Anne and Mary, that were two female prevalent pirates that had that same notoriety, that they didn't take no excrement.
Yeah.
And
no, it's really cool. In a way, it makes me think, like, the way that the pirates were operating if you think about it in a weird sense, it's almost the same way that pro wrestlers today operate in the terms of building up their character and their reputation, right? Look, before the internet, people didn't really get a a look into the, how do you say, the background of what happened in wrestling, right? Like you didn't know about the actual people. All you really knew about was the character, and that was part of the whole deal, right? A lot of these wrestlers built up a character, they built up a mystique, and they built up a reputation, and that's what they wanted people to focus on. You know, people didn't really look into the person, if you will. They looked at the character. And so I think a lot of this was the same kind of tactic that was used by the pirates. You built up a character, you built up a reputation, you allowed those rumors about you to spread because it built up your mystique. And then by the time people see you and you're showing up, you've already created this psychological thing to where they just give up and they're like, oh, I don't want anything because I've heard the stories. I've heard what this guy does. And it just makes it easier for them to just walk on board and take whatever, and without even having to resort to conflict, really. So
No,
yeah,
you're
I
right.
see a lot of similarities there. Yeah.
Black Sails, I don't know if you've watched that, but that really does a good job of depicting that. Because I'm not going to do any spoilers, but Kev, you've watched it obviously, and the way that they build up and they hype up the character of Long John Silver, I mean, you've literally got people wanting to surrender just at the sound of this character's name, because of everything that's been attached and attributed to it, and some of it, I mean, we're talking about TV show, I get it, but some of it based on what he done, but most of it just a tall story, you know, like Scott said there, Kev. It's like the wrestling, you know, you build the character up.
Yeah, and definitely you more likely had a sliver of truth behind it all. Yeah. And
they know you've been like a soy sailor and then like charging about your He-Man and not being able to back it up, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of truth behind a lot of these, you know. I mean, they probably did do something and then it got embellished a little bit and then the rumor spread, but you know, they didn't have any incentive, you know, there was no reason to correct the rumor or go, oh, no, because all that did was enhance their mystique and their reputation. So, you know, it helped them. It helped them to do that.
So, Kevin, you've got two of the female pirates here, Anne Bonnet and Mary Read, arguably two of the most famous. Now, I'm going to throw in some more names before I come back to you. But there's another female pirate that's called Cheng Ai Sao. It was one of the history's most influential raiders, began her career in a Chinese brothel. And Cheng, or the wife of Cheng, was a Cantonese former prostitute who married a powerful corsair named Cheng Ai in 1801. And the husband and wife team soon raised one of China's most formidable pirate armies. Their outfit boasted hundreds of ships and some 50,000 men, and it preyed on fishing vessels, supply junks, and coastal villages of southern China. But we've also got Anne Bonnet, as mentioned. We'll come back to that. Mary Read. Grace O'Malley, another name here you may or may not have heard of, says during a time when most women were denied an education and kept restrained to their homes, pirate Grace O'Malley led a 20-ship fleet that stood up to the might of the British monarchy. Also known as the Granual, or the Bald, for her habit of cutting her own hair short, O'Malley was born into a powerful clan that lorded over the coastlines of Western Ireland. That explains it. The Irish are crazy. After taking the reins in the 1560s, she continued a family tradition of piracy by plundering English and Spanish shipping vessels and attacking rival chieftains. And there's also one called Rachel Wall. And Rachel Wall's biography is peppered with myth and legends, but certain tales about her are true. She was one of the first and only American women to try her hand at piracy. So, Kevin, you had put in there, and I would have gone with these two as well, Anne Bonnet and Mary Read. What have you got jotted down about these two, bro?
Well, The one that I liked the most about those two women is that, you know, they hung out with the top dogs. They were part of a group. They called themselves the Flyers. I think what it has to do with, nobody really knows why they call themselves the Flyers. I think it has to do with they would fly the Jolly Roger or the flag. But they got out of NASA and went about with their pirateering, and then the group of them got caught. But lo and behold, because both of these women were pregnant, they were allowed to be set free.
Yep.
And I can't remember if it was Annie or Mary, but they made a joke about their husbands who were caught and were hung, and they didn't do anything to set them free or help them escape. And it was known that they said, well, maybe if you would act more like a man and fought your way, you never would have got caught. So that was a little ruthless to your partner, I guess. But I think it was Mary died in childbirth. And I think Anne just kind of disappeared into the wilderness, and I think it was estimated that she died of an illness. But a lot of these pirates, one thing that's interesting is that if you dig deeper into it, their demise is kind of questionable. And if you remember that movie, The Princess Bride, where they talk about the dreaded pirate Roberts, and you find out that the story is that this captain has not been the original captain, that there was 5 or 6 of them, and every now and then the first mate and the captain would change, and then the original captain would go ashore and get out of piracy and go and retire. And then the first mate would take on the persona. And I would speculate this is probably a common occurrence, you know, because at one point you're probably like, oh, I'm just too old for this. And let these younger whippersnappers carry on the torch. Because Blackbeard was one individual too that his passing was kind of controversial, and I think there's good enough speculation, you know. But if we can, did you want to go on to any more?
No, crack on.
So yeah, if we jump forward more now, if we talk about one of the original greatest pirates. Oh, Christopher there. But
Yeah.
But he definitely would have been considered a privateer. But we'll talk about his story after the break.
There we go. Yes, we're back. Now I'm going to put on some music and we'll come back in a couple of minutes. How's that sound, folks?
All right.
That
Yeah,
lets
that sounds good.
Scott and Kevin take some well-earned PPP time. Smoke them if you've got them, and we'll be back, folks. Don't worry, we're only halfway through Freaky Friday. We've barely even warmed up. We've not hit Davey Jones. We've not got to the Kraken. We've not got to all the good stuff yet. Oh, indeedy.
We'll be right back.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Nearly that time, boys. Nearly that time. Half the show gone already. Can you believe it? I'm liking the look of this one that Scott's dug up for when we get through Kevin's slides here. Pirate ghosts and lost, cursed treasure. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Only from the one and only mysterious universe can you pull something like that out, you know? So
I am the metal detector on Oak Island. He's made a fortune, like searching for Spanish gold. That's where he's made his money in the past, where he's kind of gained his reputation as being a bit of a treasure hunter.
I wonder how much Spanish gold has yet to be found.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly,
I mean,
dude.
The amount of gold that the Spanish were taking from the quote unquote New World, you know, I mean,
a lot of gold.
It had a lot of gold, a lot of gold, man.
Here we go. Almost missed our cue. Not that cue, the cue. Here we
go. Oh.
We're back, me arties. Yes, indeed. We're not back yet then.
Okay.
Okay.
That's funny. Dude, you know, people just got done hearing like the little news blurb there, and all they hear is
Arr.
Arr.
People driving along the highway like, what the hell was that, you know?
Pirates be invading TFR.
I'm telling you, man, we are. What's that all about? Here we go. Surely that's it now, eh? Me arties, we're back again. Deja vu.
Yeah. Deja vu.
I do apologize for rudely interrupting the ads out there. That was all my fault. Amateur rookie mistake. Blame it on the Kev. But we're here today to talk about the real pirates of the Caribbean. Yes, those that sail under the black flag. So, Nace, I'm going to come back to you for probably one of the most infamous privateers, right? Christopher Columbus. Ooh. The man that discovered the new world, Nace. We should stop and pay homage to this explorer of great things, you know?
Well, one thing that I'll say about Christopher Columbus isn't very positive. But so if we go back in history of what has occurred and the very strong allegations that Christopher was in the know, that he definitely had some connections. And this is definitely down speculation island, and this might bring up memory lane. I think it was maybe 5 years ago was one of the first times that I called in, because I remember when you guys used to open the phones on Freaky Friday, and I called in and I was at the end of the show and I threw out this speculation from the research I've been doing. So if we think of this gentleman, Christopher Columbus, and we think of his ships, the three ships that he had, the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria, the one thing that we think about, if we reflect on those ships, and I think it's in the next image, or it might be on the same image, is the huge red cross that was on the ships.
Yeah.
So if you look into that symbolism of that Maltese cross, it has to go with our day and nights of the temples. And in 1307, Friday the 13th, back in France, and if we jump forward, there were two individuals that conspired against that well-known group that at the time had the largest fleet known in history in Europe. And so they said the morning of Friday the 13th, they're going to round up all of the Brotherhood. And lo and behold, somehow, being in the know, I speculate, they were given privy to this plan. And by the next dawn, the entire fleet disappeared. And then if we jump ahead, next thing you know, 1/3 of the fleet shows up in Scotland. Another third of the fleet shows up in London. And we get the birth of the Scottish Rite and the York Rite. And yet 1/3 of the fleet disappears. My speculation is that 1/3 went to the Caribbeans, and they carried on part of the symbolism, the iconography of the Brotherhood, which was the skull and bones. And if we jump forward, I lost my list on it. What was the one after the?
We're at the colonies now.
Okay, so history happens. Columbus invades. They conquer South America, part of North America, the southern part of it. And as you were talking earlier, Scotty, tons and tons and hundreds of tons of gold starts crisscrossing around the world from the Americas back to Europe, and especially to Spain. And this is where all of these pirateers started getting more and more involved because of the lucrative business of being a finder of a ship that is weighted down in Spanish doubloons, pieces of 8 gold bars. They were getting so much gold out of South America that they literally had smelting shops at the ports. And so they would smelt the gold down, put them into ingots, bars, pieces of 8, Spanish doubloons, and then they would ship them back to Spain. And this is part of where Riley and Drake, they were the ones that originally were attacking these settlements of South America, of the Spaniards, along with the French. So then as time progressed, and these pirates would get all of this merchandise from all of these merchant ships, well, you can't be floating around with a bunch of chickens or a bunch of goats or coffee beans or whatnot. You would have to bring them into a port and trade. Well, lo and behold, we get the original colonies start showing up. And one of the biggest known trade ports was the Boston Harbor. And so these pirate ships would go up and down the East Coast, and they would literally trade, or, well, sometimes they raided, but a lot of times they would trade these new merchandise with the original colonies. And this is part of the angering of England, because England, they wanted to tax everything. And so if their merchant ships were being plundered, and then the merchandise was still getting to America, but there wasn't any European tax, then next thing you know, the colonists are starting to win. Mm-hmm. And I even speculate that some of our founding fathers have very close ties. And I even speculate that John Hancock was actually, like William Teach becoming Blackbeard, I think the original John Hancock is a fictitious name because that name in itself is an insult, where the king, Crazy King John, because they have different names once they get kinged or once they get crowned, then they change their name. And the term Hancock was a derogatory term for a man who did nothing and just stood around with his hand. You get the picture. And so it was kind of this big insult to the king, where the biggest name in his face was John Hancock. And then when you look at the Boston Harbor, where the founding fathers, originated, or allegedly, to say, hey, we need to just sever ties with Europe because, look, we can get it done. We're figuring out how to get it done. And then, lo and behold, by the mid-70s, it was coming down to the end of the golden age of pirates. And unfortunately, this is also at the time when the United Kingdom started making deals with pirates saying, hey, if you give up being a pirate, we will absolve you of all of your sins, and we want you to go and hunt your brotherhood. So it started becoming pirates against pirates. And unfortunately...
That's actually where you get one of the famous ones here I've got pulled up, Benjamin Hornigold. Now, this is the dude that actually, he taught, I believe, Blackbeard, which served under his command. It says here, his second in command was none other than Edward Teach, a notorious pirate who later became known as Blackbeard. And it says, in his later years, Hornigold became a pirate hunter and then passed in an unforeseen shipwreck. So some of them sold out, eh? Some of them took the king's shilling, took the old pardon, and then like the little rats they started going after their brothers.
You offer them enough doubloons, man. If
Every
the
man
price
has his
is
price,
right,
Scott. Every man has his price.
Every man has his price, and you saw a lot of that going on. And going back to what Naysay was saying about the 13 colonies and stuff, I'm sure there was a lot more, I would say, connections to piracy, in regards to the establishment of the 13 colonies, and especially around the time when we were planning on breaking off. I think that there was probably a lot of I would say working together, if you will, a little bit of a relationship, a little bit of relationship.
Cahoots,
a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of people in cahoots there with the pirates, especially when it come to raiding British ships, and like Naysay saying, we're all of a sudden getting supplies that aren't, there's no tax on them, and we're like, oh, okay, we can see how this is working out pretty well, and I also, was it the Gadsden flag? Don't tread them. That was flown on ships, and a lot of these people were privateers or former privateers when it comes to the continental navy, and so there was a lot of connections with piracy and privateering and all of that when it comes to the colonies. So no doubt, there's I would say a very strong connection there.
And so, Naysay, what do you think to the whole Oak Island thing then, right? Because you've hit the Templars here. We're going up and down the east coast of the US. Not a stone's throw from, that island in the North Atlantic, that Oak Island placey. Where do you think that plays in, or do you think that plays into this whole story?
Well, because I believe that in the grand pinnacle of the pyramid is those that have the money, and the money pull the strings of the kings and queens and the monarchy. And if they have their dogs, definitely those Templars of the sea would be part of their team. So if they are in the want of utilizing this untapped resources of the Americas, the biggest challenge would be the indigenous population that is there. If you look at some of the earliest explorers, Vespucci, I keep ruining his name. One of his memoirs was called Land of the Giants. And I've shared this before, but my ancestors talk about at one time the men were over 7 feet tall and the women were over 6 feet tall. Vespucci, in his writings, he talked about meeting men and women that were twice his height. The common height in Europe was 5'2". And so if you're 5'2" and you come and meet a woman that's 6 foot or a man that's 7 foot, that's a little intimidating. And this is one of the reasons why the Vikings were granted to stop to gain supplies along the eastern coast, because we put up a good fight with each other. Both of us were, my ancestors and the Vikings, not me. Well, if you stretch me out, I'm about 5'11", but the Vikings and the Anishinaabe people, they were big people, and so how do you wipe out all of these indigenous people? And so I do believe that they took advantage of these islands that were off the coast for strategic locations, so they can study and calculate how do we, because it's strategically it's done, the conquering, the spreading of the empire. There's a lot of strategy that comes along with it. And the biggest challenge of North and South America, when you come to a people's land, they're literally willing to die for that land because they have a greater connection to it. And unfortunately, the earlier dominant society was like, okay, you want to die for your land, bang.
Well, oh, sorry, I thought you were done there. Sorry.
Well, and then I was just going to bring up the fact that another thing of germ warfare is during the plagues of Europe, they would fill all of these decommissioned ships with the bodies, and they would set them out to sea. And then they would hit that transatlantic current, smash up upon the east coast of North America. The Native Americans would check out these ships, get infected, bring the sickness back home, and you get a wipeout of the people. And this is another thing that Columbus, since 1492 and since the original Plymouth Rock with the Pilgrims, they're estimated 80% of the population of North America was wiped out by disease.
Scotty, another thing I think about as well is over North America, you've got the French, big French influence, obviously, up in Canada. You had the French fort there. You had French families connected to these Templar people at one point as well. And you've got the stories of, I think it was it Sir Walter Kidd as well. And at one point, the local kind of government there, the French, they allowed pirates to use that as like some kind of Nassau of the North. They were quite happy with them coming and going up there,
I'm saying as long as it was beneficial to them, then they would turn a blind eye or even work with them, right? It's only when the pirates decided, oh, well, we're going to start attacking your stuff that they become an issue. But other than that, it was generally hands off because all they were doing was pestering and causing problems for their adversaries, right? So it's the classic the enemy of my enemy is my friend, you know. And so no, I mean of course, if there was pirates out there causing problems for the British or whatever, then the French were going to provide them safe harbor or turn a blind eye or allow them to operate with impunity out there. So and you know, going back to the Oak Island thing, it was like I was telling you earlier, Kev. I think there's many chapters to Oak Island, right? We're not just talking about one event or one group of people that were out there. We're talking about this island being used multiple times in multiple different its timeline is quite long as far as activity that has occurred on Oak Island. There's been many different groups of people that have been there and done things there, and maybe have utilized some of the existing structure there or looked, built upon it. So I definitely believe that there is a pirate chapter, let's just say, in Oak Island's history where that island was probably being utilized by pirates. And so I mean, we see the wide range of things that has been found in Oak Island, dating back from the 1400s all the way to the 1800s, right? I mean, that's a that's like a 400-year span of activity. Right. So, and we don't even really know how far back, the activity on Oak Island actually goes, because it seems like they keep finding older and older things there, mixed in and interspersed with more, I would say, I'm not going to say recent, but,
you don't know, because that could even have been part of the mainland at one point before seas raised, and, we have no idea.
The Oak Island thing is crazy because, at one point they'll find something from the 1800s, then they'll find something from the 1400s, then they'll find something from 15. It's just like there's this wide spread of archaeological and artifacts that are there that, I mean, yeah, there could be pirate treasure on Oak Island, right? Maybe in a completely different place than what they're looking in the money pit or whatever, because that's a whole separate thing. That's
maybe
the crazy thing.
Maybe it was just a really, really gifted player of the simulation game, and we found their stash. It's their cache, man. It's where they were it's like where they were storing their booty from the simulation. Yeah.
One thing that I found really interesting is that there wasn't a lot of known buried treasure. There was only, as far as written down, there was only a few absolutes that this occurred. Excuse me. William the Kid, Captain Kidd, he was one who actually did bury the treasure, and a friend of his uncovered it and used it against him, so he was to be hanged as a pirate. One thing I would speculate is I would put it out there that what these pirates would do, because they work with each other, as I was, behind the scenes, they're all best friends, and they would be like, hey, Bob, on Oak Island on the south side, that two cases of rum I owe you in that treasure chest. You can get it there with some interest.
Yeah, that's one of the theories, that it was like a 2 or 3 pirates that had their own entrances to a secret kind of vault that they had built. Listen, it's one of many great theories, but we got.
Oh, I was going to say, D in the chat, says the walkway seems to be pre-pirates. The swamp seems to be around the pirate time. The West Coast equals a French fort? ? And it says no one has looked on the north side, and that's probably where there's some nice treasure. So
I'm telling you, the whole place is like a story waiting to be told. It really is. Now let's get back into these quickly, Kev, before we hit the break. We've got Alexander Hamilton up as one of your slides here.
Oh, I was just putting that up there because if you look at his history, he came from the Caribbeans, and there's strong speculation that he was of African American descent, that his mother was a prostitute. Something really interesting that I came across, that some of these things, when you're out to sea with a bunch of men and you build up bonds and friendships, sometimes they go beyond the norm. And at one time, France was so upset about this homosexuality that they found out was occurring, that they sent hundreds of prostitutes to some of these different forts and settlements in the Caribbean to try to take care of that challenge.
Interesting. To try to swing them back on the other team, I guess you could say. Interesting.
Right. And what's the next one there after?
We've
Skull
got
and Bones.
the Skull and Bones.
Oh, well, this kind of comes back to some of like the mythos and the misconceptions that we have. You know, how we're joking around with the way that the pirates talk. That was because of a famous movie called Treasure Planet. Not Treasure Planet, sorry. That was the remake cartoon. Treasure Island, where the main character that played, now his name just escaped me, the pirate character there, he was the one that coined the RV talking like a pirate. But if you look at us, they were well educated. A lot of them were educated and came from the United Kingdom and had more of a British, and little pomp and prim accents there. Another one was like walking the plank. That was another thing that was brought to you by entertainment. The gang plank, what that was is when you would have a ship side by side and you would put a plank between the two. Another gang plank is to add supplies from the pier. So it appears we're on another break.
We'll be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. There we go. Yes, indeedy. 1 hour to go, ladies. And the ladies and gents out there as well. Boom, boom. Yeah.
I do take offense, Mr. Baker.
I'm telling you. These pirates, I wouldn't have messed with these boys, I'll tell you that. These were this is when men were men. I want to go back to pirate times. They wouldn't have taken some of the nonsense we get today. Look at these characters. Blackbeard. We got Calico
There was
Jack.
one story I read about this. Well, listen to about this one pirate that was so upset because the captain of a ship threw their gold over the side and said, "I'd rather have our gold to the bottom of the sea than give it to the pirate," that the pirate cut off his lips and made him eat them.
Ouch.
Right? So there was some really bad guys that did some pretty heinous things.
Oh, no doubt. It was a rough time, man. If you made the conscious decision to, get into that business to become a pirate, then I mean, you're already acknowledging the fact that you're going to probably be doing some dirty business, that there was going to be some dirty work that you were going to end up being wrapped up in. But like I said, I'm sure that there was many different levels of people that were in that. And like you said, there probably was a lot of people who had no other choice but to become a pirate in order to survive, right? Like they could have been former served formerly in the Navy or fell upon hard times or whatever. I mean, you really don't know a lot of the reasons why these people chose that path. And it was to me, piracy, it's like a risk versus reward sort of profession, right? I mean, you're taking the risk of boarding another ship and possibly losing your life, in one of these conflicts or battles. But what's the reward? Well, the reward could be a cut of that gold that's on that ship. And you also got to wonder how many of these guys just did it for a little while and got out. They got their pay, they got what they needed. They may have been set for the rest of their lives, and they said, "Hey, there's no more reason for me to be a pirate. I'm done." And I'm sure that there were quite a few people who took that smart route where they were only in it till they got what they needed, and then they were gone. It's very interesting. I'm sure that life was a very interesting life to live, no doubt.
And then the excitement of it, where it's like, okay, we're gonna go out to the sea, have this adventure, and then we're gonna be in port for a week here, with the most beautiful and exotic native peoples.
Yeah, I mean, it was essentially a way of living like you said, a life of adventure and seeing the world and traveling to exotic places. I'm sure there was a lot of kind of
Here we go, boy.
romance spun around it as well, of that. So, yep, here we go.
Our number 3 on Freaky Friday already. Can you believe it? And we're almost going into the month of March. I don't know, when is the first Friday the 13th? And why do I wonder that? Because I can't wait to join forces with the show that comes on after Freaky Friday. He's been hanging out in the chat room. Brent Thomas is on the way. The paranormal portal is sparking up, it's firing up, it's getting ready to rock and roll as we speak. And when we finish here, we're all going to go over and we're going to raid Brent's show. Yes, we are. But we've got 1 hour to go. I'm going to come back to you, Nacy, because Scott's got a really intriguing pirate ghost story that I definitely want us to get to. But you've got these slides that Renzo, a big thank you to Renzo for putting these together. Again, looks absolutely brilliant. Nano Girl does this for the show as well. It's really good when you get these visual aids. So we finished up on the Skull and Bones.
Before we go, can I just give a shout out real quick to Robbie in the chat for dropping a little bit of something that not many people are going to notice except for me. He said, "Did the pirates find the One Piece?" And I get what you said there. I get what's going on there, Robbie. You're a fellow anime fan like me, so I know what you're talking about. I'm sure Kev has no clue.
I think the pirates would be more about bikinis instead of a one piece.
No clue. Not a clue. No, definitely not. You anime boys. So we're coming on to now mermaids and manatees. Ooh.
That picture is hilarious.
Disturbing.
Of course, you can't think of pirates without, falling in love with the sea and the ladies of the sea and the mermaid. Actually, it's interesting to find so many different writings of people validating and claiming outright that they've witnessed these mer people. My ancestors, we talk about mer people. One speculation that I would put out there, because they're in the Caribbean and because a lot of these indigenous people were all about swimming and they were very good swimmers, some of them were known to swim from island to island. And could they possibly have seen one of these beautiful women or men swimming from one island to another island? But then also in the Caribbean, you have these manatees, the sea cow. And then there's speculation like, oh no, all they witnessed was one of these manatees.
What do you make of this, Scott? Mermaids,
I've heard this.
fascinating, fascinating.
Oh, definitely. I think there's something to the mermaid thing. Yeah, I think we're talking about, this is when we start getting into a lot of the talk, when you get into like the kelpies and kind of these shape-shifting water entities. I think we're dealing with the same kind of situation when we're talking about mermaids, and we've seen a lot of these stories about these mermaid-like creatures going all the way back to what I believe some of the Greek mythos and things as well. So this has been a thing that has been around for a long time. And yeah, I've heard the thing where they're like, oh, they were just misidentifying manatees out there. But I mean, a manatee doesn't really look like a person. I'm just saying. I mean, you see a manatee, it kind of just looks like a smaller whale, right? Or like you said, like a sea cow. I don't see how somebody can look at a manatee and mistake it for a person. I really don't see that. So
Excuse me, just excuse me.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
A mammothie, yeah. But no, I don't buy the whole. Oh, the mermaid you saw was a manatee. Nah, we're dealing with. Look, we're dealing with seasoned sailors and these guys that have seen aquatic life. They've seen whales and all kinds of ocean creatures, and I just don't see these guys misidentifying a manatee as a person. Nah. So I think a lot of the sightings out there are probably like legit. Like we just saw some lady swimming in the water outside the boat. What do we do? And what are they? The sirens? Is that what they called them back in the day?
The Brotherhood of the Woo have decided that there's definitely something to mermaids.
They're singing. They're singing outside there. They're like, "Come on, jump in the water. We'll give you a hug."
That's getting creepy. See, you know me, I wouldn't take much persuading, dude. I'd be right.
You see Kev just stripping down to his boxers, and he's ready to jump in. And
be my demise, Scotty boy. It'll be my demise. I'm telling you, man.
That is part of the legend. That they would give you the wink and the smile, and sing a lullaby, and as you reach down to kiss them, they then grab you and drag you down, so you're drowned. And then once you drowned at sea, more times than not, you'll be going down to Davey Jones' locker.
Yes, Davey Jones. Let's get into a bit of this. Yes. What's going on with the whole Davey Jones thing, man?
Well, a lot of speculations on where it came from. It grew and grew that it was part of your demise. Now, one thing that I found really interesting is pirates, where they had the golden earrings. Not only did they have multi-use with the golden earrings, because when they would light cannons and fire off cannons, they would take wax and hang wax from their earrings. So then when they're down there with the cannons, they would shove the wax in their ears to help protect their ears. But then also you had the speculation that earrings helped with your sight, earrings helped with your health, helped with you in the event of drowning, which that part I didn't understand. But also one thing it did is that if you died and you had a nice set of gold earrings, it could pay for a decent burial at sea. More times than not, they would just wrap you up in a cloth and drop you over the side. However,
isn't that crazy?
If you were someone of importance, you would sometimes even get a lead-lined coffin, so then your body will stay preserved for Davey Jones to come and get you.
Wow.
So there's some weird speculations about Davy Jones and Davy Jones collected those that die at sea.
Now, this is the bit I've been wanting to get to. The cryptid part of the story. The Kraken, man. What's going on with the Kraken, dude?
Well, if you follow the language, the etymology, it's from a Norwegian, Scandinavian word that means large fish or a whale. Now, unfortunately, I had a mix-up with the slide presentation. I sent you the older one. But the Luskin,
Yep.
or the Lukin, this is where some believe where the Kraken came from, where it was this entity. I don't know if there was a picture we had of it, but it was a creature that had the head of a shark, but the body of an octopi or a squid with large tentacles.
That's almost as terrifying as that shark I done a video about yesterday. The shark with a human face. Have you seen that thing? Oh,
Whoa.
It's bad. It's real bad. I'll dig it up before the end of the show. It's a weird one. But just when you were talking about half shark, half anything there. But there is an image of that here, Kevin. It's like you say, half shark and then half kraken. I would call that half kraken at the back end, you know? Yeah.
Business in the front and party in the back.
Oh, absolutely,
Yes.
brother. Absolutely. That's what she said.
And this was part of the whole, the whole persona of the pirates being out there in the ocean, and the whole, from ancient Mesopotamia, the legends of the sea. And then we get Poseidon and Neptune, because they are the sea, and then they do what they can. The sea is something that is so awe-inspiring. From being in the Navy, spending 72 days in a row out to sea without seeing land, and going through that transition of a clear glass ocean to all of a sudden heavy seas. It is definitely a force that puts you in your place in the existence of the realm of how miraculous it is. And the ocean is 70%. Over 70% of the earth is the ocean. And as we've talked before, minusculely have we uncovered the complexity of the ocean. So are these krakens, are these giant sea creatures still there? I want to believe. It only makes sense.
Well, I mean, we don't have to look any further than the fact that just here recently, within the past, 15 years or so, the giant squid was proven to be real, and the giant squid was always thought of something that was a myth, a legend, that it was something that didn't exist. And, now we have actual confirmation that the giant squid is an actual thing that lives in the deeps of the ocean. So, when we talk about the kraken and all of these like mythical sea beasts that people have reported throughout the years, I definitely think it's totally possible that these things exist, and we just haven't been able to observe them yet. They come up very rarely to the surface for whatever their reasons are, but they mostly dwell down in the deep depths that even our submergible craft have a hard time operating in. The pressures are so intense. And I mean, look, if you think about it, like you said, Nase, I mean, look, our planet is covered, it's like 73% ocean, right? I mean, by all accounts, if another species was to look at our planet they would generally rank us as an ocean planet, right? I mean, a water world, if you will, because most of the surface is covered in ocean. And then that other, 27% or whatever is just land. So, there's much more to be discovered and explored when it comes to our oceans. We've barely even done anything when it comes to that. It's crazy.
And then if we think of the Caribbeans, and if we think of the East Coast and around the Florida area, of course, there's the biggest triangle of a mystery in the Bermuda, where, I remember when I first got my computer, when I got vocational rehabilitation in 96, and the first thing they had, Google Earth. I think that came out in 97. And right away, the first thing that I remember doing was going down Google Earth to the east coast of Florida. And one arrow to the right by one arrow to the north to one arrow to the north. I slowly did grid by grid by grid off of Florida's coast, because I've always been enthralled about the Bermuda Triangle. And then all of a sudden, I come to this huge gray area that it says no photo. And next thing you know, for like the longest time, you get all of this gray area where it shows you no photo. And this is allegedly where the Bermuda Triangle is. And I'm just like, no fair. No fair, because I was all excited about finally getting an aerial view of what this Bermuda Triangle is that has claimed many, 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 many lives.
Yeah. The whole Bermuda Triangle thing, that's that's a deep one there. I mean, what is going on there? I personally think, we're dealing with either some kind of natural portal, that is, some natural energies or something that the Earth is emitting in that area, or maybe, we're dealing with some ancient tech or something that's down there that may be still powered, and activating every once in a while. I mean, I don't know, man, but all I know is that.
Yes, you're right there. I'm going to add to that, Scotty. Okay, so.
Okay.
So, full-on speculation woo here. So,
cool.
When they took the generator out of the pyramid, which they called it the Ark of the Covenant, but it actually was a generator of unknown origin. When they took it out of Egypt, took it out of Ethiopia, they tried sailing it across to America, and it went down with the ship and is in the bottom of the area of the Bermuda Triangle. And because of it opening up and sitting in the Bermuda Triangle, it's causing that whole disruption of normalcy in the fields. And this is the other reason why Columbus came over, because they uncovered these ancient charts and maps of North America where they said, hey, if we're going to put the Ark somewhere where it would be respected, maybe these indigenous people of North America or South America that still have a connection to the way Mother Earth should be, why not drop it off to them? But they lost it in transit.
Very, very interesting speculation. That'd be crazy. Yeah, you're floating on a ship and you accidentally, kind of float over the Ark of the Covenant that was accidentally dropped down there, and
there's too many of these weird triangles across the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, because we have was it the Dragon's Triangle, and then we have these triangles that are also located over land too. You know, so it's not just confined to the ocean, but your odds of it being over the ocean are greater because of the fact that
we're a water world. Yeah,
we're a water world, you know.
Yeah.
So
listen, let's get back to Nasey's last couple of slides here, so we can get them done and we can get your ghost story in the final segment, Scotty. How's that sound, right?
Sounds good.
Oak Island, we've done that. And then, oh no, well, that's all, folks. I suppose we got through the slides then, right?
Yeah. That was good. It was good, and I think it was a really good breakdown of the pirates and
most of the things that I had kind of noted down for today. Most of the things were in there anyway, so it covered a lot of bases, you know.
And I do think it's good to kind of get a look at them, you know, from a different perspective as to what we've been kind of conditioned and the stereotype that has been wrapped around pirates, right? You know, I mean, we joke around and, you know, we come on here and we're like, "Arr, matey," but like Nasey said, you know, that probably was not the way they talked. They probably had that the same British kind of accent that everybody around that time had. You know, I'm sure there were some that had, you know, people have different sounds and some sound a little gruffier than others or whatever, but in general, I mean, I'm sure they just spoke the common folks kind of language, and you know, and like I said, not all of them were probably like these ruthless killers as they've been you know, portrayed as, and all of that. And then, you know, you have the privateers, which are like the mercenaries, which is a little bit different from piracy, but not that much because it's just sanctioned piracy, and all of the dealings with you know, the elites and the royals, and you know, it was just an interesting time. I bet it would have been a crazy time to have been a sailor, just in general, in that 1600s, 1700s time frame.
If you weren't swashbuckling, you were left behind, dude. You know.
Yeah. I mean, that was the hot thing, man. Was to get on a ship and get going.
But if you didn't follow the code, and next thing you found yourself either lashed to the mast with a cat o' nine tails, or worse, you're marooned on a sandbar in the middle of nowhere.
Look, all gangs have their gang code, right? I mean, even to this day, you join a gang, there's a certain set of rules, you know, set of codes that you follow, and it wasn't any different with the pirates. You know, they had their code, their set of rules that you followed, and if you got out of line, I mean, you'd get punished. You know, you'd get so. It was very interesting, you know, and it was just kind of cool to go back through a lot of this stuff. And
I'd like to hear about your ghosties.
I think I'll get to that after the break, because we're kind of getting there. So
I think so. Yeah, we'll save that one for after the break. Hang on, then let's have another look at some of the more infamous characters. We've got Charles Gibbs. That's a new name on me. That was a pseudonym of an American pilot named James D. Jeffers, one of the last active pirates in the Caribbean. Who else we got here? Now this is Chung Po Tsai, and he was the son of a local fisherman when he was kidnapped by the notorious pirate couple Cheng Ai and Cheng Shi and adopted into a life of crime. Now, according to legend, when Cheng Ai passed, Cheng Po took up his adoptive mother, took up with his adoptive mother, and married her. Carrying on the family business of pillage, plunder, and a game for all the family. Later in life, Chung Po joined the Qing government and became a government official. And it's rumored that I might have spoken to one of his ambassadors. I'm just saying. If we move on, I've had my fill of Chinese ambassadors. Edward Lowe. In his youth was a thief, a gambler, and a thug. Soon Lowe turned to a life of piracy, and he and his men captured and robbed dozens of vessels on a number of coasts. Who else we got in here? Oh,
See,
hey, Red and Barbarossa. There's one there. Look at that. That's a
look at
Nephilim
that.
beard. Yeah.
Look at that dude. He is yeah.
That's a swashbuckler, man.
He looks like quite the character.
He
Saying.
looks like he's got some kind of contraption on the top of his hat, his turban thing here for conducting electricity.
He's got a hat on his hat.
He's got a hat on his hat. So it says, Hayreddin Barbarossa began his naval career as a pirate alongside his brothers, raiding Christian coastal villages and seizing ships across the Mediterranean. Barbarossa was successful, or so successful that he managed to become the ruler of Algiers and even the chief admiral of the Ottoman Turkish Navy under Suleiman the Magnificent. Dang, dude. We got Mary Reid. She was the best mate of Anne Bonnet. She had a long history of cross-dressing as a man for the majority of her life. She was way ahead of the game and even successfully joined the British military as a man called Mark Reid. She was eventually captured in the same battle as Bonnie and Jack Rackham. She managed to avoid execution due to pregnancy, and that's one that Kev went over earlier. Queen Tuta of Illyria, that's Queen Tuta of Illyria, was one of the earliest recorded instances of a pirate queen. She utilised piracy as a means of controlling her kingdom. However, it eventually fell to Roman rule, and any mention of the queen was lost in history. They just remove you. They just remove you, folks.
She must have been quite a thorn in the Roman Empire's side.
She must have won too many battles to be recorded in history.
Yeah, so they just kind of decided to wipe that little chapter out.
Yep, Samuel Bellamy. He sounds like he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Born to it was a poor English family. I stand corrected. In 1689, Bellamy joined the British Navy at age 13. I'll be back after the break, and I'll be eating some humble pie during them as well. Big shout out to all the ancestors of the Bellamy family. Who knew? I'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere.
It was only silver plated.
Hey.
Kev's initial judgment based on the name. He's like,
don't be so judgy, Kev. Yeah, don't be so judgy. I'm usually the one telling people don't be so judgy.
Kev's like, look at this guy, Bellamy. He sounds like he's got a
silver. I want to give a big shout out to the Tom Hanks fan club in the chat room. Big shout out to y'all out there. Man, he knows how to win friends and influence people, right? Too soon.
The glove, Kev. It's the glove.
I know.
It proves everything.
Own the glove.
Yep.
Instagram,
baby. Instagram.
It's roasting in here. I don't know about anything else.
I'd like to say thank you, Renzo.
Yes,
you rocked it.
So, those were some excellent slides that you put together to help with the presentation. The slides do help, I think, because it keeps it keeps everything on track, and then we're able to hit through all the points. And when we get back, I've got some interesting stuff from the mysterious universe about pirate ghosts and lost cursed treasure. And I think this is probably be a good warm-up for the paranormal portal after the show. We need to there's plenty of woo tied to pirates, but we need to get into the deep, ghostly, cursed treasure woo.
Oh, heck yeah. Oh, heck yeah, man. Ghost ships and all the rest of it, man.
Well, I revisited the Pirates of the Caribbean. I did a binge watching of all 4 of them, And it's interesting when you do this research and then you listen to it and then you find all the little tidbits where it's based on actuality. And it was pretty cool.
You kind of have to peel me away from Keira Knightley first before I pick up on any storyline in that movie. Yep.
The one thing I find that is absolutely crazy about the whole Pirates of the Caribbean thing, right? Like, because it became this huge phenomenon, right? And it was like the biggest kind of movie for a while, and that it was all based off of a ride, right? Like there was really no backstory to it or anything like that. There was just a Pirates of the Caribbean ride over there at Disney World or Disneyland or whatever, and they just decided to make a movie around it, which, I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy that they could build a brand that big and rake in that much cash and all of that just based off of a theme park ride.
100 years from now, there'll be a podcast talking about famous pirates called Jack Sparrow. There'll be no mention of Blackbeard. He'll be gone. That piece of history will have been gone. Tom Hanks done it. Tom Hanks got rid of it.
When they got Keith Richards to drop into number 3, I thought that was funny as all heck.
I can actually safely say I've only ever seen one of them.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, let me check the time. Here we are. Let's see. I'm probably way too early, but
20 seconds.
Nah, the clock's all off, dude. So.
Clock's all wigged out.
So. Final segment. And then, oh no. And then we've got to hand it over to the paranormal portal. Now, I sound disappointed. Only because we're having to wrap up this amazing show. But I can rest assured that Brent Thomas is going to keep all of this going and probably dial it up a little bit further on the woo factor. Because paranormal portal, it is absolutely essential listening after you've warmed yourself up with Freaky Friday. And then Brent and Big Don, they will drag you through that paranormal portal. Cryptids, ghost stories, hauntings, you name it, UFOs, high strangeness, Bigfoot, lots of Bigfoot. They've got it all going on over there. And you can catch that on the home of the paranormal portal and Freaky Friday, tfrlive.com. Or you can get it on Brent's YouTube channel over at Paranormal Portal. And yes, we will be raiding that channel right after today's Freaky Friday. So I'm going to now sit back, relax. I'm actually going to kick back in my hammock today. I've already plotted the course to Speculation Island and to entertain the sailors for this next leg of the journey. Arr, me good matey, it's Scotty Lopez.
Arr, sit
Arr.
back. Put your patch on and get ready.
Is that my Anthony? Are you talking about my Anthony patch? Arr.
Oh boy. Yes. So
Long John Cern Pants. That's my name.
Okay.
I know. I'm just gonna mute up now. I'm done. P.
All right. Well, to warm everybody up for the paranormal portal, I have pulled up a nice little article here on.
Scott's gonna lube you up for the paranormal portal.
Yes. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself.
Yes.
Oh, poor Brent. He's got to deal with us before his show. You know. Okay. So we got. We got pirate ghosts and lost cursed treasure. Arr. One popular element of pop culture nowadays is that of pirates. Many just can't seem to get enough of these swashbuckling, rugged renegades, and they have made their way into books and film with their adventures. Yet, as interesting as all of the fiction might be, sometimes the reality is even more so, and also more sinister. Here we will take a tour of various places that are tied into the pirates of yesteryear, and which hold adventure, intrigue, dark history, and indeed, ghosts and cursed treasure. Blah! Our first stop is the shores of Charles Island in the U.S. state of Connecticut at Silver Sands State Park, and just offshore from the town of Milford. The island itself is rather unassuming and nondescript, just a slash of uninhabited sandy rocks connected to the mainland by a sliver of a sandbar that fades and reappears with the tides. Measuring just 14 acres in an area where nesting flocks of birds lazily lounge without any human interference. But although one might not think much of this place, it has the rather dark distinction of having been cursed 3 times throughout its history. The first time begins with the local chief of the Pawcatuck tribe of Native Americans, who, according to legend, was so upset by the invasion of white settlers in 1639, he vehemently cursed the island to never accept the whites, to shun them, and to cause their structures to disintegrate and blow away in the wind. Interestingly, the land is indeed rather too unstable for building permanent structures upon, and it has, in fact, never been inhabited for long, despite failed efforts in the past. This curse was enough to keep most people away from the island for quite some time, but not everyone. In 1699, the legendary Scottish pirate captain William Kidd stopped by these shores and supposedly offloaded a huge trove of stolen treasure here, supposedly cursing the treasure to bring misfortune and death upon anyone who would try to dig it up. Before sailing off on his final voyage towards Boston, that would end up with him captured and finally executed for his numerous crimes. The third curse of the so-called thrice cursed island was supposedly brought to the island in 1721, when a ragtag group of sailors stashed a treasure within the earth here that had purportedly once belonged to the great 16th century Mexican emperor Huatzin, who had ominously cursed his treasure shortly before being tortured and killed by Spanish conquistadors in 1525. The sailors had apparently stumbled across the treasure hidden away in a cave in Mexico and stolen it, after which they'd been immediately bested by misery and woe. The curse would kill 4 of the 5 men who had discovered it, causing the sole survivor, fearful of when these dark forces would finally come for him, to dump it at Charles Island in a panic, along with its insidious curse. Ooh. It is unknown how much truth of any of these sensational stories have, and no treasure has officially ever been found on this speck of island, despite numerous efforts by treasure hunters to locate it. But there are certainly some wild tales about the treasures and the curses. One popular local piece of lore is that true treasure hunters accidentally managed to unearth a hoard of treasure on the island in 1850, but that as soon as they opened it, they were met with fierce blue fire shooting forth and were attacked by the intimidating presence of an immense flaming skeleton that bore down upon them from above. They managed to escape, but are said to have had their sanity subsequently degrade and corrode to the point that they spent the rest of their years locked away in an insane asylum. It is a creepy tale, to be sure, and to this day, the island is often mentioned as being haunted by the ghosts of natives and even Captain Kidd himself. Whether any of this lore holds any truth or not, it is all creepy at the very least. Ooh. Flaming skeletons.
Big time. Well, scary, dude.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next location here. It says another island with its share of dark history, buried pirate treasure, and sinister curses is Folly Island in the state of South Carolina, located just across the harbor from the city of Charleston. The island began its grim trudge through a violent history with the extermination of the original tribe here. Was it the Boakets, who allegedly sort of disappeared due to disease and fighting with the settlers during the 1600s. In the 1700s, this place was the haunt of pirates who would use it as a base of operations from which to launch brutal forays out into the crowded trade route passing by, killing crews and stealing loot. Indeed, the notorious pirate Edward Teach, more prominently known as Blackbeard, was said to prowl these waters and was a regular visitor to the island. Folly Island was struck by a terrible tragedy in 1832 when a passenger vessel called the Amelia was wrecked here on its way from New York to New Orleans. The survivors found their way to the beach on Folly Island, but no efforts were made to rescue them, as there was a deadly cholera outbreak creeping through their ranks. All 120 survivors of the ordeal were left to rot on the island, one by one, succumbing to the elements, hunger, and cholera. In later years, the Civil War would bring more death. In 1863, there was vicious fighting between the Union and Confederate forces around nearby Morris Island, and many of the wounded were brought to a field hospital set up on Folly Island, which was used as a staging area during the war. For an untold number of these badly injured men, this was their final voyage. And to this day, various unmarked graves for these lost soldiers are turned up from time to time, with no way of knowing how many more of these poor souls were buried out there and forgotten. Making it all even more ominous is that some of these bodies have been found minus their skulls for reasons no one can explain. Whoa. Who's taking the skulls of these
The
people?
head shrinkers. It's the head shrinkers.
Oh, we're gonna get into that.
Isn't it Predator?
I don't know.
Wasn't it the Predator that took the skull and the whole spine?
Yeah. All I know is that we're gonna get into the whole head shrinker thing at some point on a Freaky Friday later on, because that's a whole thing in itself. It says the tale of the cursed treasure of Folly Island has its origins in the Civil War as well, when a group of Union troops landed here to make final preparations for a push into Charleston. At some point, they came across an old woman and a child, holdouts, who had refused to evacuate in the face of the Civil War, tearing the area apart, even though all their residents were long gone. According to the tale, this woman told an officer named Yoakum that she had seen pirates bury 6 chests of treasure between 2 oak trees right behind her own shack, and that they had then killed one of their own and tossed his body into the pit with it. This was tantalizing to say the least, but the woman warned that the treasure was guarded by a pirate ghost that would let no one approach. That evening, Yoakum allegedly decided to go off in search of the treasure anyway, and took a bunch of digging tools and a fellow soldier along for the ride. When they reached the location the woman had told them about, there was apparently a fierce and mysterious wind that began to howl and blow with such force that they could barely stand, seemingly getting stronger the deeper they dug, all punctuated by bright flashes of light like lightning with no accompanying thunder. The unsettled men stopped their dig, and it was then that there was a spectacular blinding flash of light that revealed a spectral pirate standing there, unfazed by the wind and glaring at them with malevolent intent. As the ghostly pirate stood there, framed by flickering lights all around him and stinging wind-blown sand, Yoakum and his companion allegedly dropped everything and ran out of there as fast as they could. It is said that the spectral pirate still guards the treasure to this day, and either no one has found it or they have not lived to tell the tale. Of course, it is very possible that this is all a bit of lore mixed with history, but it is undoubtedly a spooky story either way. True or not, both Folly Island and Morris Island are said to be intensely haunted, and the apparitions of pirates, Civil War soldiers, and natives are often reported from the area. I mean, it just sounds like in general, these islands have had a lot of activity on them, and there's probably a lot of paranormal stuff going on just because of a lot of the activity and just energy held there from all kinds of different things, not just pirates. So
not somewhere I'd be spending the night, I tell you that. Nah, not for me. Not for me, dude.
So continuing on here, it says, finally we come to the tale of the legendary 19th century French privateer and pirate. Was it Jean Lafitte or something like that? Lafitte?
Oh, it is Jean Lafitte. Oh.
Jean Lafitte. Yeah, Jean Lafitte. Who had a tumultuous and colorful history. Jean, along with his elder brother Pierre, had a very successful smuggling operation based out of Louisiana in the Gulf of Mexico that spread out into piracy. And they became a major nuisance for the merchant vessels in the area. The whole thing was eventually brought to an end by American naval forces in 1814, who captured most of Lafitte's fleet. But the cunning pirate made a deal, agreeing to help them if they showed leniency. This would turn Lafitte into an ally of General Andrew Jackson, and he would play an important role in a major battle at New Orleans against the British, which would be the last battle of the War of 1812. Lafitte then went on to become a Spanish spy during the Mexican War of Independence, before returning to his old ways by starting a pirate colony at Galveston Island, Texas, called Campeche, and becoming a major thorn in the side of the U.S., a wanted man once again. Lafitte would continue his pirating ways up and down the coast of Central America for the rest of his days, finally dying in 1823 when he bit off more than he could chew and was killed when he tried to raid a heavily armed Spanish vessel, leaving in his wake tales of hauntings and lost treasure. Well, this guy sounded like quite the character. Like he would do whatever was necessary to get out of a situation, and then he would go back to his old habits. It says, not long after Lafitte's death, there was speculation that he had left hidden treasure caches all over the region surrounding Galveston, Texas, as well as his other old haunts throughout the Texas and Louisiana coast. And on occasion, there have been some rumors of people finding some of it. Some coins from Lafitte's day have been found at various such places, such as a place called Grand Tier, an island on Lake Borgne. Was it Borgne? I don't even know how you would pronounce that. Borgne, something like that. And at Gretna, Louisiana. Yet so far, no one has found any major treasure trove, and there are supposedly vast caches of Lafitte's treasure along the Mermaids River and Calcio River.
I'm not
and the
sure,
Sabine
but see that the new History Channel show, the world's like hidden treasures and things like that. There's one where they go to Texas and they're looking for old gold, and I don't know if it relates to this story. But it's pirates,
Maybe.
It's like, it's gold involved, there's silver involved as well. But there's a good chance that just the name's ringing a bell here. I might be wrong, it might be a different one, but yeah, because it's quite weird thinking pirates, Texas, what's going on and things like that. But when you start to trace the stories and things, it's crazy, But this could be the same dude.
Well, and you got to remember, I mean, the French, before the Louisiana Purchase, that was all French territory. So yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of pirate activity going on there. And like you said, they were kind of in cahoots and turning a blind eye to a lot of this pirate activity that was targeting the British. So, and the Spanish, because the French, the British, and the Spanish all hated each other. So it was like this trifecta of, so yeah.
If we ponder the paranormal around all the gold and the silver, imagine all of those deaths that happened in South America and Mexico, and even the Native Americans. And if these entities, spirits, ghost, whatever you want to call them, I can only imagine that these entities would be hexing or cursing this gold and silver because of the atrocities that came with it.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. That was the whole reason why they met their demise, is because, these outsiders came in to take the wealth and the riches, that they had. And so if you were going to curse something, what would be the thing that you would curse? The thing that they were looking for, right? So I'm sure a lot of these curses were put on this gold. And it wasn't just gold, it was gems and whatever was of value that they felt was of value, they took. And, we talk about objects that are able to be haunted or cursed or something like that. Yeah, I mean, this is the same thing. So yeah, continuing on here. So it says that there's supposedly vast caches of Lafitte's treasure along the Mermaids, the Calcaso, and the Sabine River, and Fowler's Bluff, Florida, all places the pirate was known to frequent. To this day, Lafitte's treasure has been a popular target for treasure hunters, both amateur and professional alike, and there are occasional claims to have even found it. But so far, it all remains mysterious. Anyone who wants to look into it for themselves, though, should be aware, as there have been stories that the coins are cursed and have brought misfortune and strife to those that find them. And that goes back to what Naysate was just talking about. It says, speaking of Jean Lafitte's old haunts, if some stories are to be believed, he has all new haunts now. Literally, Lafitte once had a modest blacksmith shop on Bourbon Street in the French Quarter of New Orleans. And now it is here where he purportedly spends most of his time in the afterlife. The building, which is now a bar, has a long history of Lafitte's ghost appearing, always on the first floor. The ghost is said to be what is a full-bodied apparition that reportedly appears very real and lifelike, to the point that some witnesses have mistaken him for an actor wearing a period sailor's outfit, only realizing they are looking at a ghost when he vanishes before their eyes. Ooh. Lafitte's ghost apparently never interacts with anyone and never speaks or makes any noise, merely staring from the shadows before blinking away. And making it all spookier is that the same building is also said to harbor the spirit of a mysterious young woman who likes to whisper in people's ears, and another entity that appears as a pair of blazing red eyes. Come on, Mothman, what are you doing hanging out? See that? Mothman finds his way everywhere, man.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
So
the reason we do not engage with anyone is because we are French and we don't need to engage with anyone.
So finishing up, it says, are any of these tales based in reality? Or are we looking at myth and legend intertwined with and married to historical fact to the point where the two seem inseparable? What can we say of these tales of hauntings and cursed treasure from the days when pirates stalked the seas? Although there is certainly a sense of urban legend and exaggeration orbiting these cases, they nevertheless are spooky and surreal accounts and a peek into another age when pirates were not just fictional characters, but a real presence to be reckoned with, haunting the seas, perhaps literally. So yeah, there's a little bit of some woo there, haunted treasure, cursed treasure, and like I said, I like Naysay said, a lot of these indigenous people to the area may have cursed a lot of these items before they headed out. They're like, oh, okay, you want it, you can have it. Let me just throw this little bit of hoodoo voodoo on it and see how much you like it when your ship goes down in the middle of the ocean. I don't know. If you found the treasure, Kev, would you want it? There's the question. Do you know what's tied to the treasure?
I'll take the hoodoo doo-doo, the voodoo, woodoo, woody stuff that comes with it. Dude, come on, man. It's all good. It's all good.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'm willing to. Listen, if it's part of the deal, it's part of the deal. But listen, we are almost out of time. I need to remind you all that it doesn't end here. No. We hand over to Brent Thomas for Paranormal Portal. And you can get there at tfrlive.com. You can also hear it on TalkStream Live. Go to the TFR network station on TalkStream Live and you'll hear it live on there. But you can also go over to Brent's YouTube channel where he'll be hanging out with Don Longbeard and all of the regulars in the chat room as well. So take your pick. We're going to be going there in just a moment. Kevin, thank you for today's show. That was good, man.
Yeah, good stuff, dude.
The other thing that's so cool about the Paranormal Portal, if you have any experiences, he does have open lines, so you have the ability to share your experiences.
Yes, indeed. So, what you got planned for the weekend, Scotty? Nice quiet one.
Yeah, just gonna be chilling out. Oh yeah, we are going to be receiving our almost 400 pounds of meat tomorrow. So
your half a cow arrives, man.
Yeah, my half a cow arrives.
Steak tomorrow night, then, is it? Steak tomorrow night?
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
indeed.
Lovely, man. Just the side of a cow. You can't beat it, dude. We're out of here, folks. Head on over to the Paranormal Portal, wherever you are. Make it TFR. It had to be done. Come on, it had to be.
Anthony, touch that dial.
Arr. There we go. So that was good. I enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that. Want to thank everyone on YouTube for being here. That was awesome. Guys, that was good. I had good fun. Did you have good fun?
Oh,
Always.
Blast. Always, man.
Now, on the... Let me check something here. Tell you folks, it's going to be a big week on KBS next week. Holy shimoly, have I been working hard in the background. Let me give you a little idea of what's coming up next week on the show. Yep, there is. On Monday, I'll be joined by Dr. Kevin McCairn. A lot of the stuff that he's been talking about is now being confirmed by science studies. He says we're entering a very critical stage of everything going on right now, so join me for that on Monday. On Tuesday, the return of Charlie Robinson. He'll be coming on to the show.
The octopus of global control.
On Wednesday, Brad Olson is coming on to the show. Oh, yeah.
Dang. Big week. Hard-hitting week.
Big week. And then you on the Thursday, Scott. Now, if we move forward a couple of weeks, so starting on Monday, the 15th of March, and if you're in Australia, that's going to be at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, the 16th of March. And the reason I give Australia a specific mention is because we're going to have on Stephen Strong to talk about the out of Australia theory. Yes, indeed. And I'm smiling because this is the same week that on Friday, We're going to be joined by Nacy. We're going to have Luna. We're going to have Donnie. But we're also going to have two other original speakers from down in Australia as well. So that week there, the 15th to the 19th, it's shaping up to be... March is shaping up to be a huge month on KBS and Freaky Friday.
That's some hard-hitting stuff, and that the way the stars aligned and the synchronicity lined up for that Australian week. I mean, that's just a whole week of Australian woo right there, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Yep, and I just want to pull this on here. Give me 2 seconds. If I show people this, I'm gonna come over here. Now, this is something called our Alien Ancestry, What Comes Next. And this is Stephen and Evan Strong. They're going to be speaking tomorrow. I'm going to be listening to this conference tomorrow and on Sunday. Stephen has very graciously given me a ticket so I can sit and chill out and take all of this information in. This is where it gets really cool because we're going like to where do we come from, and it intertwines with all the alien stuff. I know Donnie and Luna are friends in Australia, Jess. Everyone down there is kind of excited. A bit of a big deal getting these characters to come on to the show. Weird because Jimmy Jeansy had mentioned them to me a few weeks ago. And Jess and Bruce Fenton, they'd actually spoke about these guys when we done shows way back as well. So I don't know, dude. It's just some good stuff coming through right now, and I've got other guests. I've got the plate spinning, but I haven't confirmed them yet. I really wish I could because it'd make March like the best month ever. You know.
It seems like you've got a lot of pots boiling, Kev. A lot of pots boiling.
There's some really big ones that I want to just. Oh, I wish I could say, but if I say, it won't happen.
Exactly. If you say, like immediately after you say it, you're going to get an email that says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't." So so just keep it close to the chest until we get confirmation.
Yeah. I know how to work this. I know how to do this part. Yeah. I got the Geordie Rose over the line, man. I can do it. So listen, folks, thank you all for being here. I've had a blast. I hope you've had a blast. We'll be back. I'll be back Sunday, actually. The members stream the link is live over on KBS2. And if you didn't know you could become a member, well, you can over on the backup channel. We have all of our live gigs over there. We've got our members only Sunday. And of course, myself, Derek, Travis, and Bill will be back on Sunday with Warrior Mode. Any final thoughts, gents, before we sail the seas out of here? Arr. I'm all arred out.
I'm going to have to visit the high seas again.
Yeah.
You'll have to show the YouTube audience, when we're talking about synchronicity, what I'm using for my Call of Duty little banner. It drops.
You said duty.
Duty. I said duty.
Thank you, Kevin. It was a wonderful Freaky Friday again. And thanks, Renzo, for the images.
Yeah, it was good stuff. I liked the whole pirate topic. It was pretty good. Pretty good. There is a lot of woo and stuff that is tied to it. And yeah, it was good stuff, man. Good stuff.
And if you want to go and find treasure, all of you miraculous perfections of unique individuals, go find the closest mirror.
Is that your hang there? Yeah.
Yep. So as you see, my just synchronicity. Just the other day, I unlocked a little badge or a banner thing for my player profile, and it happens to be a pirate. So there we go. I'm rocking the pirate swag on Call of Duty, and I got an interesting little like symbol thing that unlocked too. And for some reason, it made me think of Oak Island, so I put it next to my pirate.
I like it, dude. I like it.
Yeah.
Arr. On that note, we are out of here. Remember, folks, keep it real out there. You know to keep it real, right? Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. Bow. Wow. Bow, wow, wow. Bow, wow. Freaky Friday. Kevin on the air guitar. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow.
We got to get you a little guitar cutout.
We do. We need an air guitar and an air wah-wah pedal. Wow, wow.
How dare you?
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Sarcophagi.
Social justice warrior.